Tonight is the homecoming dinner after the man has been away from home for 13 years. As the host of the dinner, his alcohol tolerance is ridiculously bad. After 3 glasses of soju, he blacks out on the spot, instantly turning into a total lightweight. As a result, he's hungover all night and then wakes up. On his neck, there's suddenly a hickey. Baek Siu left home at 16, thinking he could go out and make a name for himself. But now at 29, back home, he's still an unemployed drifter. Even his own room hasn't changed. It's still the same old set of furniture from before. He stares at an old photo of himself with his buddies from a few years ago. He starts to feel uneasy. This time, should I just stay? Got it just then. His mother's call suddenly comes from downstairs. Seeing a whole table full of meat and vegetables, he is instantly stunned. His mom tells him that tonight they're holding his homecoming dinner, and his childhood playmates Song Hyun and Ju-won will be coming too. Just thinking about how they've had zero contact all these years, he wonders if meeting tonight will be so awkward it's suffocating. Soon, dusk falls. That's right, as soon as the warm-hearted uncle and auntie next door arrive, they look at Siu like they've gained another son. They even say they want to introduce him to their granddaughter, who won't graduate for another 9 years. After that, a big guy with messy hair walks in from outside. Who the heck is this, some sort of strong man or what? Song Hyun calls out Siu bro 3 times in a row, grabs him, and starts acting all chummy. Right after that, Ju-won also hurries over. Siu still hasn't figured out how to respond so it won't be awkward. Ju-won stares at his malnourished-looking frame. Yeah, have you been slacking off all these years? You didn't even have time to grow properly? Of course. The Juho who used to be like a baby has now grown into a handsome young man. Once everyone arrived, the dinner party officially began. Ju-won's dad yelled that he had to knock back a few hard drinks with Siu. Siu hurriedly waved his hand to refuse, saying he really wasn't good at drinking. But Ju-won kept persuading him, saying that he was the star of the day, so it was fine to drink a little. Unable to withstand everyone's coaxing, Siu could only nod and give in. Who knew that after just 3 glasses, he would already feel dizzy and dazed. The next second, his whole body swayed and he fell straight onto the sofa. Early the next morning, Siu was jolted awake by the alarm. After spending the whole night on the sofa, his entire body ached badly. But when he lowered his head, he suddenly saw that there was actually a hickey on his neck. Siu's face instantly turned pale. That light red mark, no matter how you looked at it, it didn't seem like a bug bite. And he had been in a relationship for 3 years, so there was no way he would mistake it. But no matter how hard he tried to think, he couldn't remember. He'd been too drunk last night and everything was a blur. Click. Siu could only press the matter down for now and wait until he was a bit more clear-headed. But he was afraid that someone would spot the mark at a glance. He had no choice but to cover his neck with his hand and quickly walk back to his own room. As soon as he pushed the door open, Siu froze. Ju-won was actually changing clothes in his room. Siu was even more confused. Why would Ju-won be in his room? Ju-won calmly explained that things got too wild last night, so he simply hadn't gone home. After all, when they were kids, they often squeezed into one bed to sleep together. But now that they're this old, Siu is afraid of awkward silence. He can only forcefully drag up embarrassing incidents from 13 years ago and prop up the mood. He casually asks Ju-won, "It's already this late. How come you're still not at work?" Damn, only then does he realize he's actually unemployed, and he's even forgotten that today is Saturday. After that, the two of them just casually start talking about their old dreams. Ju-won hears that Siu is studying for the teaching certification exam. You could say he's still moving forward toward his goal. But when Siu brings up how he ran away from home back then because he didn't know his limits, and how even now he's still just ordinary with no real improvement, Ju-won clearly doesn't want to hear it and directly cuts him off. The next second, Ju-won suddenly pins him against the corner of the wall. Pointing at the hickey on his neck, he laughs and says, "This thing, huh? It's not that easy to get rid of." Siu immediately reacts. Could it be that Ju-won was the one who did it? Ju-won has a face full of mischief, sly and teasing. "You slept like the dead last night. You don't remember anything, right?" He says that at his own welcome back party. He says after only 3 drinks Siu just collapsed on the table. As a result, when he woke up, there was suddenly a hickey on his neck, because he really couldn't remember who did it. Siu plans to cover it up first. He absolutely can't let anyone see it. But what Siu didn't expect is that one casual line from Ju-won, who slept in his room, instantly makes him bristle on the spot, his face flushing hot red. In his mind, an image of that guy Ju-won uncontrollably surfaces, taking a secret bite while he's asleep. Although Ju-won now had a happy expression like he had gotten his way, but no matter how he thought about it, Siyu couldn't believe it would be Ju-won. After all, when they were kids, Ju-won genuinely hated him to the bone. No matter what, there was no way the hickeys were from Ju-won. Siyu only felt that he was being self-indulgent again, so he immediately pushed that kind of thought down. Forcing a smile, he said, "It's been a long time since I heard you joke around, Ju-won Hyung. It actually makes me pretty happy." Then Siyu still went downstairs with his hand covering the hickey, but he suddenly remembered the unpleasant things that had happened between them before. Siyu had thought he'd long since forgotten, yet his nose stung and tears still fell. But as soon as he went downstairs, Song Hyeon and Ju-ho greeted him. He forced out a smile, but his hand still clamped tightly over the hickey. Seeing how bad he looked, Ju-ho frowned and asked with concern, "You felt really awful last night, didn't you?" Siyu forced himself to explain, "I haven't drunk in a long time. I really made a fool of myself in front of you last night." Right after that, Song Hyeon stood up to go cook some hangover soup for him. Siyu gently moved the stool and sat down next to Ju-ho. They discussed whether they should go up into the mountains for a bit, but Siyu felt that even if he'd been away for more than 10 years, there was no need to make a special trip. Bringing the soup over, Song Hyeon casually asked how Siyu was doing in Seoul and why he had never gotten in touch with him. Siyu could only explain that he had really been too busy, always busy studying. "I've really been too busy, only focusing on studying." On top of that, after Siyu got into the teacher's college, his mom kept showing off about it everywhere. But right after that, Siyu said he was thinking about quitting halfway. When Ju-ho pressed him for the reason, Siyu just casually made something up to brush him off. Before long, the hearty breakfast that Song Hyeon was making was all ready too. Next to them, though, Ju-ho had his head down, his whole body slumped over the table like a deflated balloon. Adults were always saying he was annoying. Just hearing the adults study hard made it feel hard to breathe. Song Hyeon praised Ju-ho. Even though he can't compare to Siyu, and even though Siyu isn't handsome either, Ju-ho is 100 times cuter than he is. The moment Ju-ho heard the word cute, he instantly bristled. "I don't want to be cute, I want to be cool." Siyu also picked up on it, that studying didn't seem to be going too well for Ju-ho. Ju-ho immediately said that from now on, whenever he ran into problems, could he go to top student Siyu for help. As soon as he heard that, Siyu was of course delighted and agreed on the spot. So Ju-ho took the chance to save Siyu's phone number. He even said the second floor of Siyu's house was really huge. Siyu asked him, "You went up to the second floor yesterday?" At that, Ju-ho panicked, as if he'd been burned, and hurriedly denied it, saying he'd never gone up. In fact, Siyu had originally planned to take him up to have a look, but now Ju-ho's face was completely red, so he could only mumble that there was no need to go to all that trouble. He suddenly jumped to his feet and stammered, "Hyung Ju-won should be awake now. I'll go upstairs and call him." Equally sensitive, Siyu also noticed that something was off with this punk Ju-ho. Could it be that the real secret person who left the hickey was him? At that moment, Song Hyeon handed a band-aid to him. He had originally planned to tell Siyu about it as soon as he woke up. After all, if Auntie happened to see that hickey, it would really be a big problem. The moment Siyu heard it, he froze on the spot. He had clearly been covering it with his hand the whole time just now. How could Song Hyeon know that it wasn't a wound, but a faint reddish hickey mark? Thinking back to Ju-won's behavior, and then to Ju-ho's behavior, Siyu only felt his head buzzing, like it was going to explode in the very next second. Faced with Song Hyeon's concern, and his suggestion that they take a walk around the village, Siyu could only bite the bullet and apologize, saying his head was too tired and they'd go another day. Who would have thought that on the very first night a man comes home after 13 years, he'd run straight into this kind of trouble? Because he had stayed over for one night, a new mark had suddenly appeared on his neck. Afraid of being found out, he kept covering it with his hand. But this action of his was basically a flame that couldn't be hidden. Siyu had never told Song Hyeon what exactly had happened to his neck, but Song Hyeon still saw it at a glance. Siyu was deliberately hiding it, let alone little Ju-ho. Whenever he hears him mention his own room, his reaction is clearly abnormal. Even Ju-won, who slept in his own room that night, went so far as to tell him directly, "That mark won't disappear in a short time at all." The key is, Ju-won even put on an expression that said, "Yeah, I did it." This made the party involved, Siyu, feel his mind buzz all at once. But the next second, he also reacted, taking advantage of someone blacking out to make a move and plant this. That's pure snake behavior. The more Siyu thought about it, the angrier he got. But right now, the most suspicious ones were just these three guys. He didn't dare ask them directly, and there was no way he could invite Conan, who was far away in the land of the sun. So the utterly exhausted Siyu slowly drifted off to sleep. But just as he was dozing off, a big hand reached out toward him. That hand cautiously brushed his lips, and the half-asleep Siyu seemed to sense something. The next second, he actually opened his mouth and bit down hard on that index finger. And as soon as he turned over, that hand still wouldn't behave itself, as if it had some designs on his body, heh. Slowly, Siyu felt that the joints of this hand were especially thick, and it was even doing, "What are you trying to do? No way, could this hand be that snake's?" Suddenly, Siyu jolted awake from the dream. He looked down and saw that his clothes were perfectly fine, not messed up at all. So it was a naughty dream. Only then did he realize it really had been a naughty dream. But although that big hand in the dream was a bit blurry, its outline looked very similar to the person who planted the hickey. He was just a tiny bit short. Right when he was about to see the face clearly, he suddenly woke up. Then he flipped back the blanket and was instantly stunned on the spot. My God, last night he actually freaking wet the bed. Waking up early in the morning with his head still aching, Siyu sat on the sofa, his expression bitter as hell. After all, he had only been back home for 2 nights and already caused so much trouble that he was starting to fear what kind of new mess might happen tomorrow. At this moment, his mom brought up the work in the orchard and said they wouldn't have him go for now, but she wanted him to tutor little Juho. Siyu was in no mood to listen at all. Annoyed, he shoved her off and refused on the spot. But his mom said, wouldn't it be a good thing if Juho's grades improved? And she even insisted that he had to go to Juho's house to teach. As soon as Siyu heard that, he instantly sucked in a sharp breath. Going to Juho's place is basically like voluntarily delivering yourself into the hands of that mysterious person who leaves hickeys. Siyu wanted to discuss it with his mom, asking if they could have Juho come over to their house for tutoring instead. But his mom said Juho was young, and the road was long, so going back and forth would be too much trouble. She even said that if he refused to go tutor, he could forget about getting any allowance. And he would also have to go down to the orchard with her, weeding and fertilizing without skipping a single task. Seeing how things stood, Siyu could only grit his teeth and agree. He'd go tomorrow, though he was of course just hoping not to run into Juwon. Not long after, Songhaeun came over again to look for Siyu to hang out. You weren't feeling well yesterday. Let's go walk around the village together today. Hearing this, Siyu's mind instantly started racing. He first wanted to calm Songhaeun's urge to go out, and then, while he was at it, fish for some information related to that matter. But just as Songhaeun was about to sit down, his mom directly yelled at Siyu. You brat, if you don't want to go out, then come to the orchard and work with me. As soon as Siyu heard that, he immediately yanked Songhaeun up. Let's go. Let's go. Hurry up and head out for a walk. Of course, Songhaeun could also tell that Siyu was still afraid of his mother. But all Siyu could think about was hurrying out with Songhaeun to see Guanyu. Only then did Siyu suddenly realize they were actually still hooking pinkies. Hyung, you really don't have to be so nervous. Because I'm here, and I'm wearing my pants properly and keeping my clothes covered up, I'll stay with you and play together. Hyung, as long as you need help, I'll always be here. I'll always be here. This was something the grown-up tag-along Songhaeun later said to Siyu, all because of that one line from mom. If you don't go out, you're going down to the orchard to work. Right then and there, Siyu pulled Songhaeun up and directly said, let's go. I'll take you out for a walk. In the end, Songhaeun took him to see his family's Guanyu. All along the way, Songhaeun kept talking about the not-so-obvious changes in the village. When they ran into elders on the road, Siyu would also stop and politely greet them. Just like that, walking and listening, Siyu became a little more familiar with this village. These past few years, the road is still the same road, but there are a lot more shops now. Songhaeun was speaking especially earnestly, but Siyu's heart had long since been stolen by him. On top of that, Songhaeun's hand kept waving in front of his eyes, so Siyu's gaze had long been fixed on those hands. In that instant, Siyu's throat tightened, and he choked out in a low voice, without me even noticing, how did this little brat grow such beautiful big hands? He suddenly remembered the dream from last night. The pair of big hands in the dream really looked so much like Songhaeun's. Siyu zoned out for quite a while, and when Songhaeun called out to him, his heart jolted in fright. Seeing that Siyu Hyung had been absent-minded the whole time, Songhaeun's face was full of worry. Siyu only felt even more consumed by guilt inside. But that matter kept clinging to him, making it impossible for him to summon the energy to do anything. Siyu couldn't help doubting himself. After being away for so many years, can I really still get used to life here? After listening, Songhaeun fell silent and thought for a few seconds. He didn't know why Siyu felt so uneasy, but this was, after all, Siyu's hometown. Here he had family, friends, and also him, this younger brother. No matter how troublesome something is, There will always be a way to solve it. Hearing Song Hyan say this, the corners of Siu's mouth finally relaxed a little, revealing a relieved smile. He suddenly also felt, with such a good younger brother here, maybe he didn't need to be so afraid. But in the next second, Siu started to worry again. Tomorrow he had to tutor Juho, and he wanted to talk to the aunt and tactfully cancel it. Soon, early the next morning, Siu was already standing at the door of Juho's house. Looking at that 520 square meter big house, it would be a lie to say he wasn't jealous, but at this moment he only prayed, "Please, let Juwon not be at home." He silently cheered himself on. Today, this matter must be settled according to his own wishes. As soon as he entered the door, the aunt handed him a glass of freshly squeezed orange juice. "I'm really happy that you could come, Siu." Siu took a sip, and his gaze quietly swept around the room. He didn't see Juwon. Juho's mother smiled and praised him. His grades were great and he was so good-looking. It really made people envious. Flustered, Siu could only behave and be modest. Juwon is the real good kid, but the aunt knew her own son too well. She immediately gave a disdainful laugh. "Him? He's just a little cutie." As soon as she finished speaking, Juwon walked over. What was worse, he had heard that casual remark just now loud and clear. Siu also froze. This guy is actually really at home. Juwon swaggered over and sat down right across from Siu. With a smug look on his face, he opened his mouth and said, "Ha ha ha, hey, you're here, little bro Siu." Yet, in front of elders, the more you want to refuse something, the more they praise you enthusiastically. Your face heats up, and the words you want to say get stuck in your throat. He had originally planned to come to Juho's house today. The motive was simply to turn down the future tutoring for him. He was still holding on to a bit of luck. "Please don't let me run into suspect number one, Juwon. Please don't let me run into suspect number one, Juwon." And the result? Juwon still jumped out. What's more, Juwon put on a teacher's posture and, like an educator, said, "I heard someone was coming to tutor my younger brother, so I wanted to see who it was, to check for him out of responsibility. I'm not here to watch the fun." At that moment, Siu's pressure shot straight to the max. The words of refusal stuck in his throat and couldn't come out. The aunt had also said that she had hired tutors before, but none of them worked. So she still wanted to hand Juho over to this prestigious university graduate. Siu felt a bit embarrassed and first thanked the aunt for thinking so highly of him, but compared with Juwon, he himself was just an unemployed drifter. When Juho heard that they wanted Juwon to tutor him, his whole body froze on the spot. The next second he completely exploded. Even if he ranked dead last, he would never let Juwon teach him. And older brother Juwon had long been very impatient with this autistic younger brother. The aunt could tell something was wrong and immediately begged Siu again and again to agree to tutor Juho. At this moment, Juwon's father came downstairs. Siu instantly stood up straight and greeted uncle politely. With an air of overbearing arrogance, Juwon's father replied with a single and that sense of oppression rushed straight at them, instantly pressing down on the whole scene. Of course, he had also heard that Siu was here to tutor. He was clearly in a rush to go out on some errand, and only tossed out, "I'll be leaving Juho in your care from now on," then turned and left. With that, Siu had even less way to refuse. Auntie hurriedly called Siu over to get ready for dinner. The warmth of this family made Siu feel as if his mouth were blocked. The grievance was stuck in his chest, and he couldn't put it into words. Watching Auntie fill the entire table with a lavish dinner, Siu praised her cooking as being like Michelin level. But more than the compliment, what Auntie cared about was that Siu finally nodded and agreed to help tutor Juho. And she also believed that Siu really had the ability to do it. After all, the two families were on such good terms. She only hoped Siu wouldn't take this matter too heavily and wouldn't put too much pressure on himself. With no way out anymore, Siu could only grit his teeth and make up his mind. This time he absolutely had to do it well. Auntie served her signature pickled cucumbers. Siu, who already didn't like eating them, had just reached out with his chopsticks when Juwon snatched the dish away. "Cucumbers will make you gain weight. Have some meat instead." But Auntie kept feeling that Siu was skinny like a rabbit. Juwon, however, said he was actually very fat. No, Auntie still thought he was far too thin. "Eat more cucumbers. It'd be nice if you put on a little weight." But Siu looked up at Juwon, who stubbornly wouldn't let him eat them. Could it be that this guy knew Siu hated cucumbers and did it on purpose? But based on what Siu knew about Juwon, he seemed more like the type who would actually force Siu to eat them. After dinner, Juwon yanked Siu up and said they should go to his room for a drink. Mom, seeing the two finally able to sit down and talk, of course supported the idea. She even busied herself preparing some snacks to go with their drinks. But Siu knew very well, Going there was most likely a lamb walking into a wolf's den. He wanted to refuse, but Ju-won simply wouldn't accept no for an answer. He even raised his hand and pointed at the mark on Siwoo's body, as if threatening him. Don't you want to know how this mark appeared? I happen to know who the real number 6 is. Hearing that, Siwoo was both scared and even more desperate to know the truth. His chest felt tight from holding it in, and in the end he could only agree. He'd go and see first. He had to confirm whether that number 6 was actually this despicable and shameless guy. Don't even mention how eager you all are to know whether number 6 is Ju-won. Siwoo was even willing to risk using himself as bait just to drag the truth out. As soon as Ju-won entered the room, Siwoo asked straight out, "Who is number 6? But the sly Ju-won didn't want to answer directly. Instead, he brushed it off, saying that the way Siwoo went limp that night was absolutely unforgettable. And then he was reminded of how flustered Siwoo used to be as a kid. He was tripping and falling every other day. It was practically Ju-won's main source of joy. Of course, Siwoo had always thought he was older than Ju-won. Damn it, how could a younger brother laugh at his older brother? But Ju-won had zero interest in talking about any of that now. The moment their past came up, Siwoo almost burst out laughing on the spot too. But Ju-won immediately steered them back to the main topic about smoking out number 6. The two of them came up with a fair bet. But from childhood to now, Siwoo has never beaten Ju-won. Yet Ju-won now holds the initiative. Only if Siwoo wins will he say who number 6 is. If Ju-won wins, then at the next dinner Siwoo has to drink chilled cucumber soup. Just now he was speaking up for Siwoo, saying not to eat cucumbers, but now his true colors show, obviously planning to laugh at him next time. Siwoo had no choice and could only agree, and what they were betting on was who could drink more yellow can drinks. Hearing this, Siwoo, who clearly knows he can't hold his liquor, blew up on the spot. But Ju-won's little scheme was already set. He had no intention of changing it. Thinking of how he usually tops out at 6 cans, Siwoo just felt it was way too unfair. It was still very unfair, but back when he was studying he could down 3 glasses and stay clear-headed. So he'd give it a try. If he happened to win, wouldn't that be a nice gain? Besides, as long as he controlled the pace, he still had a bit of a chance. In the end, the two of them, each with their own agenda, reached an agreement. Right after that, once 3 cans were down, Siwoo started acting off. He was running and shouting that he doesn't like eating cucumbers. After finishing the 4th can, he was completely drunk. Of course, Ju-won also took the chance to find out Siwoo hates green things. The problem was, Ju-won was still perfectly sober. The final result was announced. Siwoo's bet was a total loss. Siwoo broke down on the spot, sobbing uncontrollably, and even threw a tantrum. Then tell me, what exactly is number 6? Ju-won spoke very calmly and said, yes. Siwoo stared at him, realizing Ju-won was actually this composed. If it had been in the past, when he was treated like that by old 6, Ju-won shouldn't have been this quiet. Siwoo was already blacking out, dizzy, and slowly lowered his head. Thinking he had fallen asleep, Ju-won reached out and nudged him, but Siwoo was so aggrieved that he immediately burst into tears. He said his mind was a mess and his head hurt badly. Ju-won hurriedly stretched out his fingers, wanting to test if he was still lucid, but Siwoo had no energy to play any guessing game now. In a daze, he stared at Ju-won's slender, long index finger. Siwoo remembered that big hand from that night, and the more he looked, the more it felt like Ju-won's. But with just one glance, he didn't dare be sure at all. So no matter how many fingers Ju-won held out, Siwoo still slowly leaned in toward Ju-won. Oh Ju-won, I did lose, that's true, but I have a small request. Can I use your fingers to try making a pot of cucumber pork rib soup? The night that man came home, marks suddenly appeared on his neck. The second night, he dreamed of a big hand like strawberry old 6. Only then did he make a bet with Ju-won, wanting to use this chance to figure out the truth. Who knew he couldn't hold his liquor against Ju-won at all and ended up losing pitifully and completely. Now looking again at Ju-won's pair of slender, long hands, Siwoo actually suggested that he wanted to personally try stewed finger and rib soup. After hearing this, Ju-won was completely stunned. Is this guy drinking canned drinks until he's hungry? Did he start treating my hand like a sausage or something? Siwoo was very determined and kept begging Ju-won again and again to agree. Ju-won hadn't expected that after drinking, Siwoo could still play this hard, but he really couldn't stand seeing Siwoo suffer like this. In the end, he still agreed, but he forbade any thrusting. So Siwoo grabbed Ju-won's hand in one go. He didn't rush to put it in his mouth, but lowered his head and stared at it for a long time, as if confirming something. He stared so long that Ju-won started to get annoyed. Are you reading my palm or what? Are you going to do it or not? Seeing Ju-won urging him, Siwoo dropped the act. As soon as he took Ju-won's index finger into his mouth, He couldn't help but let out a low laugh. Ju-won instantly felt his whole body heat up. He really hadn't expected that after drinking, Siyu would actually have this kind of strange habit. In the end, Siyu accidentally bit Ju-won. Ju-won immediately pulled his finger back. Hiss! You almost broke the skin with that bite. Siyu had no choice but to continue, but Ju-won was rushing him like a New Year's Eve dinner, urging him to hurry up the whole time. Siyu had no choice but to take 2 fingers into his mouth at once. Just as Siyu was slowly continuing at an unhurried pace, Ju-won suddenly tensed up and called for him to stop. Ju-won had thought Siyu was just fooling around drunkenly, but he hadn't expected Siyu to be this obsessed. As Ju-won pulled his fingers back, he softly coaxed Siyu, but by this time, Siyu was already like he'd lost control, his body reacting all on its own. Ju-won looked at the dazed Siyu and asked him, "Why isn't it really working? Or is it that once this guy drinks too much, he's like this with everyone? Still, it's fortunate that right now only Ju-won is here." Looking at the Siyu who was curled up into a ball, Ju-won finally made up his mind to help him just this once. But the method also had to suit the problem. Before Siyu could give a clear answer, Ju-won had already taken it upon himself to start, and he also had to make sure Siyu didn't make a sound. Very soon, under Ju-won's round of handling, the uncomfortable feeling in Siyu slowly faded. Ju-won also let out a sigh of relief, a smile on his lips. I really didn't expect that after just a few cans of yellow, this guy would become so interesting. As the saying goes, when boys are out in the world, they must protect themselves well. There's truth in that. Last night, Siyu, who drank the yellow cans, really went through hell. As the first ray of morning sunlight shone in through the window, Siyu, still in his sleep, turned over, wanting to keep sleeping. In the dazzling light, Siyu finally opened his sleepy eyes. He looked at this unfamiliar room, and only then suddenly remembered, last night he had made a bet with Ju-won and drank the yellow cans. After a whole night of hangover, Siyu's head hurt like crazy, and he had no strength in his body at all. He tried hard to recall and felt like he had even eaten cucumber last night. He replayed it in his head. Other than that, he probably didn't cause any more trouble. But when he lowered his head and saw his bare feet, Siyu's brows instantly furrowed, and the scenes from last night suddenly surged back. His white socks were gone, and not only were the yellow cans all emptied, there was also a sudden, indescribably strange feeling in his body. At that time, his eyes were red, and he begged Ju-won for help with a crying voice. The more he thought about it, the more wrong it felt, and Siyu's whole body just froze. He could only sit on the edge of the bed, unable to make a sound, left with a silent breakdown. He even wondered if, just like his senior brother, there was something wrong with his own brain too. It was just a few bottles of canned drinks. How could he have drunk himself into such a loss of control, his mind in a fog? What was even more absurd was that he actually made Ju-won, the one who had once heard him say those words, do that kind of thing. In fact, when they were very young, Siyu had already confessed to Ju-won. It all happened very suddenly, but Siyu still forced himself to speak his true feelings. Ju-won did not respond, so Siyu said, "If it feels too sudden, you can give me your answer later." That was what he said, but in his heart Siyu was still burning, stubbornly waiting for an answer. But when he turned his head to look at Ju-won beside him, Ju-won already had a hand over his mouth, wearing an expression like he was about to throw up. In that moment, Siyu utterly hated himself. It was too humiliating, too awful. What was worse, later on he even ended up having that ridiculous kind of thing happen with Ju-won. But thinking about how he had only just come back not long ago, and Ju-won had only treated him like that. In the end, he was actually the one who made Ju-won upset. Just as he was thinking this, he heard the aunt outside the door calling Ju-ho to go to school, and it was already 7:15 in the morning. Logically speaking, Ju-won should also be getting ready to leave for work. So today is actually a normal workday for Ju-won. He even has to work tomorrow. Yet he actually dragged him into a bet last night to see who could drink the yellow can stuff. Only now does Siyu realize he'd been played by Ju-won like an idiot. The one who said he was in a hurry to find out who the strawberry number 6 was him. But then he turned right around and made a bet with the prime suspect to drink the yellow can stuff. In the end, he stepped right into the trap and drank until his head was spinning. Although in his blurry memory, it seems like he also ate a cucumber. But what matters most right now is getting away fast. Siyu hurriedly stuffed his own things into his bag. Then he gently pushed the door open. He stuck his head out to check what was happening in the living room. He must not bump into Ju-won again before he leaves. Taking advantage of the aunt scolding Ju-ho, Siyu slipped out of the house at once. Dragging his wobbly legs, Siyu trudged home listlessly. Whenever he thought about the absurd things from last night, he wanted to disappear on the spot. What's even worse is that he still has to come back later to tutor Ju-ho. he no longer has any idea how to face Ju-won. Suddenly, he remembered what happened last night again. Siyu had clearly been refusing the whole time, yet that rat Ju-won just kept persuading him. That's what made him accidentally step into the abyss. And throughout the whole thing, that guy Ju-won was obviously enjoying it too. But after all, he'd been hung over the whole night, so he could only force himself to believe again. Maybe he just saw it wrong. In the dorm room, Ji, who wanted to cry, only felt that this nice weather was especially out of place. As he was walking, someone suddenly called his name. It was Song Hyeon, the younger brother who worked over at the storeroom. Siyu immediately put on a smile and took the initiative to greet Song Hyeon. The moment Song Hyeon saw him, he was so pleased with himself it was like his tail was about to stick up, and he ran straight towards Siyu. As soon as he heard that Siyu had gone to Ju-won's place last night and even spent the night there, and that now his whole body was covered in that scent, plus that kind of exhaustion written all over his face, Song Hyeon immediately invited Siyu over to his place to have a glass of honey water to wake himself up. When Siyu heard this, he was obviously stunned for a moment. But then he thought that if he went home looking like this, his mom would definitely nag him, and being alone would just make his thoughts run wild. Faced with Song Hyeon's endless invitations, Siyu finally still nodded and agreed to go sit at his place for a while first. On the other side, Ju-won had just finished washing up, and when he walked to the room planning to tell Siyu to hurry up and get out of bed, he found that the room had long since been empty and spotless. That guy was that drunk last night, so where did he run off to now? At that moment, Siyu was sitting in Song Hyeon's home, gulping down honey water, and he kept praising how incredibly delicious this honey water was. With a mix of modesty and pride, Song Hyeon said it was all because his younger sister was the best at seasoning things. When Siyu heard the words "younger sister," he was clearly a little surprised. When he thought back to the time he left home, Song Hyeon and his younger siblings had all still been so little. But now they had all grown up, some were in high school and some were already working. Siyu couldn't help but sigh. That time was truly disgusting. The mother he hadn't seen in years hadn't escaped time either. There were already wrinkles on her face. Same with Ju-won, he had become taller and more handsome. But with so many annoying things happening lately, Siyu was still irritated with him. He turned his head and blankly looked at Song Hyeon beside him. Song Hyeon thought Siyu Hyung wanted another glass of honey water. Unexpectedly, Siyu looked at him and directly said, "You're the most disgusting." With such a cute younger brother, no one could possibly call him disgusting. And just a moment ago, Song Hyeon had even invited Siyu to his home. He had even personally mixed a sweet glass of honey water for Siyu. Yet just now, when Siyu had still been staring dazedly at Song Hyeon, he suddenly threw that line at him, "You're the most disgusting." After saying it, he kept muttering under his breath, and Song Hyeon simply couldn't believe it. That tiny, soft little guy from before, how could he have become this cute now? And on top of that, he even chased after him like a homeroom teacher, asking, "How did you manage it?" Exactly, leaving Song Hyeon feeling terribly wronged. He had just been about to explain it to Siyu, but Siyu hurriedly ruffled his hair and said he was only joking. They even said that Song Hyeon is so handsome that he must be especially popular with girls when he goes out. This sentence was a sincere compliment, not a joke. Siyu just kept praising him like that, one remark after another, unable to stop, until even younger brother Song Hyeon almost couldn't handle it. You could tell that Song Hyeon was genuinely happy from the bottom of his heart. The way he smiled was so healing that even Siyu and I felt cured. Then the two of them started talking about why Siyu went to Juho's house, and in Song Hyeon's view, giving Juho tutoring was a good thing. But Siyu felt it was completely like a lamb walking into a wolf's den. Song Hyeon, sitting next to him, kept comforting him. Song Hyeon said that ever since Siyu left without a word, he and Ju-won went to different high schools, and he, who was left behind in their hometown, was once lonely to the extreme. Whenever he thought of the three of them playing together back then, Song Hyeon just couldn't help feeling happy. Now big brother Siyu has returned to their hometown. Song Hyeon is truly especially happy. After hearing what Song Hyeon said, Siyu quietly apologized to Song Hyeon for running away back then. As soon as Song Hyeon saw him, he immediately showed a very well-behaved, very soft smile. In that instant, Siyu was deeply healed all over again. He throws himself directly into Song Hyeon's arms and says in a low voice that he's already starting to feel jealous of the girl who will get to live with Song Hyeon in the future. Of course, with Siyu back, Song Hyeon can't hide how happy he is. So Siyu thinks that if he explains the reason he left back then, Song Hyeon should be able to understand. Siyu takes the initiative to confess that he left that time because of something special about the person he was in love with. He had mustered up the courage to confess, but was rejected. And that was why he ran away without leaving a single word. In fact, he had imagined many different endings, but the him of that day really just fell apart on the spot. And just now, Song Hyeon's attitude truly did make Siyu feel comforted. Siyu only hopes that after saying all this, Song Hyeon won't be disappointed in him. He never expected Song Hyeon to show that silly expression again. For a moment, Siyu thinks he's being laughed at. But the reason Song Hyeon is smiling is that it's like he has finally untied a knot in his heart. It's also because he feels that Siyu has truly entrusted him with his trust. Hearing this, Siyu's heart starts pounding chaotically, and he has no idea how to respond. Song Hyeon gently reassures him. The fact that you were that upset back then means you really loved that person. He also says, I have never once been disappointed in you, Siyu Hyung. He even goes so far as to state his own feelings for Siyu outright. A person like older brother, I'm also really fond of him, and there's no small number of people who like someone like Song Hyeon. But like with Cold Bunny, the recent strawberry incident still hasn't been cleared up. How do you expect brother Siyu to sleep peacefully? Hearing Song Hyeon say, I really like you, Siyu's whole face instantly flushed red, and his voice caught. Before Siyu could react, that sudden agreement had already fallen. But it was as if Song Hyeon suddenly changed direction and added in a low voice, remember, there are still people around you who like you. Only after hearing this did Siyu finally let out a breath, though his heart was still pounding. Luckily, this kid put it very vaguely. Otherwise, in this period of being alone together, he really would have had to accept this confession. After that, Siyu pushed his emotions back down and seriously told Song Hyeon, what we said today will just be a secret between the two of us and mustn't be spread. He also took the chance to remind him, don't go saying, I really like someone, so casually in front of a crowd. It must be something Siyu said like that. Even if Siyu did say so, he snuggled against Song Hyeon's shoulder like a spoiled child. He even said that from now on he would treat Song Hyeon to delicious food. But when Song Hyeon thought about how he'd been freeloading food and drinks since he was a kid, he still wanted to use this chance to return that favor. On top of that, Siyu kept holding his hand, not letting him pay, saying they should just write off the past. Only then did Siyu realize what he was doing, and he immediately let go of his hand. But Song Hyeon just said straight out, if you want to touch it, you can touch it again. Song Hyeon also knew there was something a bit off about himself, but the feeling of holding hands, he really liked it. He also really liked that beautiful hand of Siyu's. He liked it so much he simply couldn't stop. Siyu's face instantly turned red. He thought to himself, the moment we held hands, what we felt should have been the same, right? He even felt an inexplicable little itch in his heart. He immediately pulled his own hand back. He just felt that this sudden intimacy was moving way too fast. Siyu stood up on the spot and said he had already sobered up. Then he hurriedly said goodbye to Song Hyeon. Back home, Siyu was still thinking about that never-before-felt heartbeat just now. And on top of that, the way Song Hyeon had looked at him so tenderly. No way. Did that guy Song Hyeon really fall for me? And the way Song Hyeon looked also made him even more like a total strawberry scumbag. But Ju-won doesn't look like any good person either. Or maybe, Ju-won had long known that Song Hyeon was the old six, yet he still kept it from me and insisted on betting to do that thing. But no matter how you think about it, between these two, there's definitely one who's planting strawberries. As long as you can solve this problem, you can ask for whatever you want, little brother. Today is the first day Siyu came to tutor Juho. Seeing Siyu Hyung with that look of fighting spirit maxed out, I knew right away he must have only slept for an hour last night, yet was stubbornly claiming he slept great. Of course, this task was personally assigned by Auntie. No matter how tired he is, Siyu doesn't want little Juho to see that he can't hold on. Very soon, Siyu pulled himself together and started the first day of lessons. He picked a problem that fit Juho's current progress exactly and had him do it, but half the day went by with no movement. Siyu had no choice but to step in himself and explain how he should plug into the formula. And once the formula was substituted in, the answer came out in a few seconds. After explaining, he even lowered his voice and asked Juho, "Did you understand?" But the two of them were only left staring at each other. Juho panicked instantly and hurriedly lowered his head to recalculate. The Juho in front of him was hundreds of times cuter than Ju-won. Siyu was so entranced watching him that he almost fell asleep. Who knew that very soon Juho said he was done. When Siyu looked, the solution process was written densely all over the page. Siyu's heart sank. He was like some strawberry old six, having busied himself for nothing. All his work had been in vain, so he had no choice but to explain once more how to use the formula. But Juho just stubbornly clung to his own steps. As a result, Juho shot back, Why does it only count as correct if you do it that way? Someone like Siyu, who'd been through over 10 years of compulsory education, actually got stumped by that question. To push down this exam-oriented awkwardness, Siyu simply took out an even easier textbook, planning to have Juho practice basic math first. Who knew Juho would push back right away? "I'm not an idiot. Are you mocking me by giving me this stuff?" He even added, "I just can't be bothered to do it. If I really wanted to, I could definitely solve it. If I really wanted to, I could definitely solve it." With that, he flung his pen aside and said he wasn't in the mood to study today. Seeing this, Siyu immediately brought up Juwon. He finally understood why Juwon didn't want to teach this guy. He was supposed to start from the most basic formulas so he could improve step by step. As he was muttering this under his breath, Juho also started complaining on his side. Head lowered, the more he thought about it, the more dejected he felt, convinced he could never compare to his brother Juwon in this lifetime. Time ticked by bit by bit. Seeing that Juho was still so unmotivated, Siyu simply proposed a reward system. From now on, for each tutoring session, as long as his test score reached 90, Siyu would grant Juho one wish. Juho's first reaction, "You've got to be kidding me." His eyes instantly widened, and he chased after him to confirm, "Any wish at all?" Could it be that this little rascal Juho was thinking of openly asking Siyu to give him another strawberry? The more you fear something, the more it comes right at you. Juwon, acting like a total schemer, directly declared, "If the tutoring doesn't lead to any improvement, not only will Siyu be forbidden from tutoring Juho again, he'll even snatch Siyu away for himself." Seeing how Juho is always so sloppy about studying, Siyu proposed a reward system. As long as he can score 90 on the upcoming exam, he will agree to any wish Juho makes. Afraid that Siyu was just saying it casually, Juho kept confirming it over and over again. That rush of excitement in Juho is probably exactly the same as yours in front of the screen. Once Siyu nodded and gave a definite answer, Juho was like he'd just downed 3 bowls of chicken blood. Completely fired up, he immediately buried himself in studying hard. But at that moment, Siyu actually felt a bit uneasy. Why did this guy confirm it so many times? Could it be that there's something unspeakable hidden in that any wish? But if it can reignite a student who was about to give up and lie flat, it does seem like he's really got some talent for being a teacher. Very soon, the first day of tutoring came to an end. Before leaving, Siyu reminded Juho, "If there's any question you don't understand, come ask me anytime." Juho pulled Siyu along and said they should grab an ice cream to cool off before heading out. But the moment Siyu thought he might run into Juwon, he tensed up completely and just wanted to bolt. Full of enthusiasm, Juho leaned in and asked what flavor he liked. The next second, a voice suddenly drifted in from outside the door. Him? Of course he likes chocolate flavor. The one who said this was none other than old 6 Juwon, who had been waiting outside for him to come out. Juho was just about to drive him away, but Juwon didn't give him any face at all. He raised his hand and gestured. "The tutoring is over, so the person should be handed over to me." He stared at Siyu, his tone as cold as if he were giving an order. "If you want to keep seeing Siyu in the future, you'd better honestly go review your work. And if you don't get at least 90 on the exam, Siyu will be punished along with you." After hearing this, Siyu was stunned for quite a while, his throat tightening. Forcing himself to hold it together, he said to Juho, "You're tired today too. Go rest first. The ice cream, we'll have it next time." After sending Juho back to his room, Siyu was even more afraid that their conversation would be heard by Juho. So he spoke first. "Let's talk in your room." As soon as Juwon's door was pushed open, Siyu's mind was instantly flooded with what happened last time. Those unbearable images. He froze completely in the doorway, his feet feeling nailed to the floor, not daring to step inside at all. Yet Juwon still pretended to be slow and steady, saying he just wanted to hear Siyu report on how today's tutoring went. He closed in on Siyu step by step, lowering his voice. "That blockhead Juho really makes things hard on you." Siyu realized he was about to start something again and immediately pulled away to put some distance between them. But Juwon just wouldn't let him go, sticking to him and refusing to stop. He even deliberately mocked him. "The marks on your neck are actually still there. I remember back then, I didn't even use that much force, did I?" Infuriated, Siyu cursed right back. "You bastard. Don't you ever say things like that again." But just at this moment, he was pushed around again and again by Juwon, and in a moment of carelessness, he had already fallen onto the bed. Having drifted outside for 13 years, he had just returned home, and on his very first night, he was already targeted by old 6. On the second night, Dongwon dreamed of a strange big hand. On the second night, he dreamed of a strange big hand. On the second night, Dongwon dreamed of a strange big hand. On the second night, he dreamed of a strange big hand. What's more, early in the morning he discovered that he had actually wet the bed. In order to find out who old 6 was that night, he never expected to be forced by Ju-won to drink canned yellow peaches again. Yet even so, because he had agreed to tutor Ju-ho, he had to go to Ju-ho's house often. And today, just as the first tutoring session ended, he was actually blocked at home by this guy Ju-won again. Ju-won even declared, "If you don't give me 3 likes in a row today, don't even think about leaving." Siyu quickly explained. Last time it was because of a dream, and he had long forgotten what had happened. He only hoped that this time Ju-won would let him go. But Ju-won obviously didn't want to listen to this nonsense. "Can't remember? Then I'll help you recall." He even went for a second round, using the mark on his neck to keep fooling Siyu. As long as Siyu did a good job with today's matter, he would tell him everything. But this time Siyu wasn't going to fall for it, because Siyu felt that the biggest suspect for being old 6 should be Song Hyeon's younger brother. From beginning to end, Ju-won had only been playing him. No matter what, he didn't want to get involved with Ju-won anymore. Of course, Siyu's kind of baseless guess was immediately exposed on the spot by Ju-won. And then Ju-won, using the condition of, "I've got some explosive info in my hands," just needed Siyu to obediently cooperate. All he had to do were a few very simple things. As for the number 6 that Siyu had been desperately chasing, Ju-won simply said, "I'll just tell you directly." Siyu definitely didn't want to agree. Every fiber of him resisted, but Ju-won wasn't asking him at all. He just cut off Siyu's nonsense directly, leaving Siyu no way out. He even deliberately led Siyu to believe he himself is number 6. After hearing that line, Siyu was completely stunned on the spot. Ju-won immediately continued to sweet-talk him, and his tone was especially steady. He forced him to yield. "Stop dawdling, start right now." For the sake of the answer, Siyu had no choice but to go along with what Ju-won wanted for the time being. Ju-won even added one more condition. This time Siyu is not allowed to use his hands. Everything will be done by Ju-won in Siyu's place. This time Siyu was really in trouble. And on top of that, Ju-won kept staring at Siyu's reactions, not looking away for a second. "You little demon too." Whenever Ju-won lets his guard down for a moment, Siyu immediately starts feeling it. In the next second, Siyu lifted his foot and kicked Ju-won away. Bracing himself, he said he needed to go to the bathroom. But Ju-won refused him on the spot, his tone even turning cold. Today, no one is allowed to sneak off to the bathroom to take care of it. He even stared at Siyu and made an even more excessive demand. It had to be cleared up face to face. Ju-won directly used the answers to threaten Siyu. If Siyu didn't agree, then Siyu could forget about ever learning the truth about that sneaky bastard. Early the next morning, the boy was exhausted to the limit, slumped on the sofa in total burnout. His mom shouted at him with a loudspeaker for ages, but he didn't react at all. The reason was simple. Last night he and Ju-won had been fooling around the whole night. They had worn this kid Siyu out completely. But rather than saying the two of them were playing, it'd be better to say Siyu was bullied by that sneaky bastard Ju-won all night long. Mom leaned in and took a sniff, then felt it didn't seem like that kind of thing. She even thought Siyu had gotten into trouble outside. Siyu hurried to explain. He was just worn out from extra tutoring. So his mom complained that he was already 30 and still hadn't done anything with his life, saying he was hopeless. Siyu was obviously immune to his mom's nagging by now, because his head was filled entirely with what happened last night. It was the first time he had done that kind of thing without drinking the yellow can stuff. But there was one thing he just couldn't figure out. He had clearly confessed his feelings to Ju-won before, yet was coldly rejected. But now, Ju-won was instead bullying him over and over again. He even suspected that Ju-won was just toying with him. But there was one thing that was certain. The feelings between him and Ju-won had flared up again. And precisely because of that, he had been afraid of running into Ju-won again. Yet no matter how he thought about it, he kept tossing and turning on the sofa. He still couldn't figure it out. Why that guy had done that kind of thing to him and even taken the initiative to kiss him. At this moment, the more Siyu thought about it, the more panicked he felt. He hadn't expected that his state would actually make his mom very unhappy. Mom even warned him not to lie around at home. Since he didn't need to go to cram school, he had to go out and work with her. Because the family orchard had just entered the harvest season. They were shorthanded, so Siyu had to go help as well. But before they set out, they had to make a trip to Song Hyeon's place to deliver the freshly picked eggplants. Seeing that Siyu was still sprawled on the sofa refusing to get up, Mom had no choice but to enforce the family rules directly. So Siyu had to grab a big bag of eggplants, pretending to be cheerful as he went to find Song Hyeon. When Song Hyeon saw that brother Siyu had come, he walked up to greet him very politely. He took the eggplants that Siyu handed over, then invited him to come inside and sit. saying he would go pour him a drink to help him cool off. Song Hyun had just been about to remind him to watch the threshold, but before he could, Siyu missed his footing and was about to go sprawling flat on the floor. At the critical moment, Song Hyun slid in like a tackle. He caught Siyu steadily. Realizing that he was on top of Song Hyun, Siyu hurriedly scrambled to his feet. While worrying that the big eggplants would all spill onto the floor, he hastily bent down to pick them up, but he never expected that his disobedient little hand at that moment wasn't grabbing the eggplants he had brought at all. The boy delivered eggplants to his cute younger neighbor's house for the first time, but he had barely stepped through the door when he took a spill. Not only did the eggplants scatter all over the floor, in his fluster he also accidentally groped Song Hyun's. Well, that one moment embarrassed Siyu so much that he spun around and bolted straight home. Yet that scene kept replaying over and over in his head, so Siyu secretly took care of it behind his mom's back. But just as he finished, his mom barged in, cursing and grumbling as she pushed the door open. Because of the little noises he had just been making, she thought her son had come down with some serious illness. And right now, in order to be a bit less awkward, Siyu could only bury his head in the trash can, pretending he was just tired and sleepy and wanted to rest for a while. But his mom wasn't buying it at all, and directly dragged him off to help in the orchard. Only when he got to the orchard did he realize the neighbors had already come to help. Right there on the spot, his mom even started introducing Siyu to the neighborhood auntie. She said that after running around outside for 13 years and still not making a name for himself, it was actually good for Siyu to come back and take over such a big orchard at home. I'm telling you, when Siyu heard that, he really wished he could find a hole in the ground and crawl into it on the spot. And just then, his mom's voice calling for Song Hyun rang out again. Siyu, who had never expected Song Hyun to show up, suddenly didn't know what to do with his hands and feet. To his mom, though, Song Hyun had long since become almost like a godson. After all, he came every year to help them take care of the fruit. She also took the chance to tell Song Hyun to keep a close eye on Siyu. Look at this kid, thinking about strange things all day long. Seeing Song Hyun again at this moment, Siyu's whole body was radiating awkwardness. On the contrary, Song Hyun looked very relaxed. He patiently explained how to pick out the bad fruits. Siyu quickly caught on as well. Following Song Hyun's instructions, he removed the crooked and ugly ones one by one. Seeing this, Song Hyun immediately gave him a double thumbs up and even said he was going to give him a follow. Hearing this, Mom couldn't help thinking, Song Hyun's emotional intelligence is really high. In no time, Siyu's technique had become very practiced, and the more he picked, the more into it he got. He could also feel that Song Hyun was just as warm toward him as usual, so the mood between the two of them didn't keep sinking further into awkwardness. After a full day's work, Siyu was so exhausted he collapsed straight onto the ground. Mom complained about him. How can a boy in his 20s be this weak? The neighbors politely said a few words to smooth things over. By then, Mom had also finished preparing dinner. There was even a dish that was Siyu's absolute favorite, stir-fried eggplant with garlic, said to be a delicacy of the human world. The moment the two of them saw that plate of eggplant, they both froze. Their bodies wouldn't obey them either, flushing from their toes all the way up. Mom even teased Siyu, "Aren't you exactly what everyone calls the eggplant killer?" She had no idea that at this moment, Siyu was so embarrassed he wanted to disappear on the spot. Sitting opposite him, Song Hyun could only smile and slowly avert his gaze. After the meal, the two of them went up to the second floor together. Siyu, exhausted, slumped down onto the sofa. But when he thought about their relationship, he felt that they couldn't just go on being this awkward forever. So he opened his mouth and apologized to Song Hyun, saying that what happened in the morning was his fault, and he didn't want their relationship to end up like this. He explained that his hand had really slipped, and that was the only reason he touched Song Hyun. Siyu originally thought that even if Song Hyun felt a bit awkward, he would still forgive him. But what he never expected was that Song Hyun instead said he was very happy. He even asked back at Siyu, "Would you hate me being like this?" The pure and adorable younger brother had truly bared his heart today. To help his eggplant killer, Hyung, Song Hyun had stayed with Siyu's family and helped out for the whole day. After dinner, the two of them went up to the third floor together to rest. Siyu wanted to take this chance to apologize for that big banana incident. But not only did Song Hyun not dislike it, he was secretly delighted in his heart. He also knew that Siyu never wanted their relationship to become awkward in the first place. But what Song Hyun hated even more was that former distance of just being treated as Hyung and Dongsing. Bit by bit, he moved closer, scooting toward Siyu, who was sprawled out on the sofa. In the end, he still let that sentence slip out, "Appa," I love you. Omo. The moment Siyu heard it, he completely froze. Faced with such a straightforward, no-filter Songhaeun, Siyu only wanted to brush it off with a laugh. But Songhaeun kept stressing, over and over, that the like he was talking about was absolutely not that simple, brotherly kind of feeling. What he wanted was to go through more with Siyu, to have more happen between them. Siyu used "you're still young" as an excuse, trying to smooth over and carry off Songhaeun's feelings. But Songhaeun wouldn't listen at all. He just wanted to steal a kiss right now, just wanted to see clearly how Siyu would react, right this moment. He even wanted to push things a little further, no matter that Siyu said the world outside was big and he should go meet more people. But the unwavering look in Songhaeun's eyes was saying that he only wanted Siyu Hyung, and no one else would do, because every little move Siyu made could hook his heart into beating out of control. He had even long ago thought about it, about claiming Siyu all for himself. Right now, this searing atmosphere was burning Siyu's face bright red. He hurriedly reached out and pushed away Songhaeun, whose tail was practically wagging up to the sky. Thump thump, meow, because he had never imagined he would hear words so shy-inducing they made it hard to breathe. And yet little brother Songhaeun could just say them so casually. He was someone who had said, "I like you" all the time since they were kids, and Siyu had never imagined that what it meant was wanting to have him completely, down to the last bite. He was clearly well-behaved and kind, but Siyu had never once seen him as a romantic partner. Of course, it wasn't that Siyu had never thought about it at all. After all, the last time they went "ai hey hey," Songhaeun had been jumping all around inside Siyu's head. Thinking of this, Siyu's expression instantly tightened. He even wondered if he'd gone insane. At this moment, Songhaeun spoke up as well. He said that the reason he was confessing his feelings today was because he was afraid Siyu Hyung would never understand his heart, not because he wanted to cause trouble in Siyu Hyung's life. Siyu also said that he wasn't unhappy about it. He had always thought Songhaeun was very kind, and that being liked by him was a blessing. Siyu was truly very grateful as well. This whole string of nonsense from Siyu was actually him forcing himself to calm down bit by bit. But just now, Songhaeun could no longer wait. No matter what, he had to steal a smooch from Siyu, because if he didn't try, he would never know what it really felt like. Seeing that Siyu hadn't clearly rejected him, Songhaeun cupped his face and kissed him hard. Omo. Siyu could only gasp for breath helplessly. He knew that today would definitely become something Songhaeun would never forget for the rest of his life. While soothing Siyu's grievance, he himself was also trapped by the feeling from just now and couldn't calm down for a long time. So he wanted even more to keep going forward with Siyu Hyung. The wolf has really come this time, darlings. The real cunning wolf number 6 has finally been caught. Not that Ju-won who coaxed and sweet-talked Siyu. Instead, he kept pretending to be very kind. That kid Songhaeun. When the time was right, Songhaeun laid his feelings out in front of Siyu, and he directly spelled it out. He just wants to devour Siyu completely. As soon as he finished saying that with a thump-thump heart, Siyu panicked on the spot. But he still couldn't withstand this little wolf dog kneeling on the ground, whining and looking wronged. There was no helping it. Siyu was overwhelmed by that forceful aura of Songhaeun and ended up having a rough round of sex with him. But the little wolf dog Songhaeun's appetite was anything but small. He insisted on dragging Siyu to keep going before he was willing to stop. The next second, he ended up getting roughly fucked by Siyu instead. Siyu said flatly, "That's it for today, there won't be a second round." Even if Songhaeun stared with those seemingly innocent puppy eyes, Siyu was already no longer interested. What happened just now, he'd just count it as a reward for him. But at this moment, Songhaeun started whining again. He even said Siyu was going too far. Who turns down their younger brother in this kind of mood? Siyu didn't indulge him either. Then go ahead and be as disappointed as you want. But this guy Songhaeun shot back that he was even harder than before. Facing a Songhaeun like a wild horse off its reins, Siyu could only feel helpless. Just then, Songhaeun reached out and touched the hickey on Siyu's neck. As time passed, the mark really was slowly fading. Songhaeun asked, "You still don't know who did it? You really don't remember anything at all?" Only then did Siyu finally catch on. So the number 6, the dog had been looking for all along, turned out to be Songhaeun. This guy, and his reaction just now matched up perfectly. Taking advantage of him being drunk and asleep to mess around was really too sneaky. But before Siyu could even finish his sentence, Songhaeun struck a "the dog is about to do something bad" pose and reenacted how he had made his move. He even wanted to plant an entire strawberry field on Siyu's neck. After being rejected by Siyu, he actually said, "Then we can just change the spot." He even deliberately brought up the incident of Siyu touching the big eggplant, saying he had to touch him back too. Only then would it be fair between the two of them. By this point, Siyu's face was already burning red, and even his body was trembling. The shyness he showed was honestly unbearably cute. But thinking of the aunt still downstairs, Song Hyan told Siyu to keep his voice down, and that he himself would also be more careful about going too far. He had already taken care of himself just now. Now, it's my turn to help you out. Young, after struggling quite a bit, the boy finally discovered the number 6, secretly planted that night, turned out to be Song Hyan's younger brother. But at this moment, Siyu just couldn't muster up any energy at all, because he had just gotten through Song Hyan's little brother's whole ABBA session. He wanted to review properly, but there was no way he could focus. He really couldn't bring himself to accept Song Hyan's confession, not to mention that Song Hyan was showing a kind of initiative he'd never shown before. He even told him to think it over carefully before answering. But right at this moment, Ju-won popped up in his mind again. He used the whole 6th place thing as a pretext and made Siyu completely lose face. At that, Siyu was instantly furious. By comparison, the mild-tempered Song Hyan was much more straightforward in expressing his feelings. But if he really had to choose one of them, he would probably lean more towards Song Hyan's younger brother, because right now he more wants to date someone who likes him. He was still tangled up in it when his phone suddenly rang. It was a message from Ju-ho, inviting him to come for extra study, and saying he would fulfill the wish he'd promised before. Siyu was straightforward as well and replied directly, "I keep my word." But he couldn't help wondering what exactly Ju-ho's wish was. If it was to flick that guy Ju-won on the forehead, that would be perfect. Soon it was afternoon, and Siyu arrived at Ju-ho's house. As soon as they met, Ju-ho couldn't wait to brag that he'd scored 100 points. After a round of praise from Siyu, he was actually moved to the point of tears, and he suddenly gained a lot of confidence about his future studies. Of course, they couldn't forget. They still had to make good on Ju-ho's wish. Ju-ho confirmed over and over, any wish at all is really okay, right? And he had taken the test fair and square, too. Then Siyu helping him fulfill his wish could also be considered reasonable enough. Just then, Siyu's phone rang again. As it kept ringing, Siyu reached out to grab his phone, and just in that second he wasn't paying attention. Ju-ho actually leaned right in and kissed him on the cheek. The two of them both froze on the spot. Siyu still hadn't recovered from that utterly baffling kiss. Ju-ho was the first to get upset, saying that Siyu deliberately turned his head and didn't cooperate. But a kiss is a kiss, and that one more or less satisfied him. He even declared, if he passes the exam again next time, then his wish will be aimed straight at Siyu. This relationship is getting more and more tangled, completely impossible to sort out. On top of that, people's hearts are complicated, and there's also that special kind of emotion between them. Even if you're Siyu standing in the center position, you'd be spun dizzy by it. At this moment, in a certain elite high school after dismissal, Wu Lao Lu, who hadn't shown up for a long time, kept dialing Siyu's number. Because there was a dinner gathering that evening, the female teacher next to him kept urging him to hurry up and leave. But Siyu still wasn't answering. Ju-won could only set it aside for now and turn to go join the get-together. Of course, at this moment Siyu had absolutely no time to pick up the phone anyway, because he was busy analyzing the relationships among these people over and over again. The little brother Song Hyan who stole a kiss really seemed to like him, while Wu Lao Lu, who always loved to tease him, gave no clue what he actually wanted. The younger Ju-ho, whom he tutored, also seemed a bit obsessed now. After this round of marking by Siyu, the relationships among these four people were simply a complete mess in one boiling pot. No matter how he tried, he just couldn't sort it out, and the more Siyu thought about it, the more confused he became. He couldn't even figure out what position he was actually in. On top of that, people's hearts are complicated, and Siyu suddenly understood. Feelings aren't something you can just casually write or draw a bit and have them all sorted out. So, feeling unbearably depressed, he decided to go out for a walk to clear his head. The night air was very cool and very clear. Siyu set out from his family's orchard, walking slowly all the way until he reached the elementary school he had once attended. Scenes from his school days came back to him one after another. Back then, he, Ju-won, and Song Hyan were practically glued together every single day. Counting middle school as well, the three of them had been stuck together for a full 9 years. But these scenes were also reminding him of one sentence: memories are always beautified by ourselves. Yet even so, Siyu still couldn't help but laugh. Back then, they always used to meet up at the bus stop, then go to school together. Every time, Song Hyan was the first to arrive, and he would even prepare juice for Siyu. As for that guy Ju-won, he was always the type to show up right on the dot at the last second. Just like that, Siyu sank into those shining memories. He really was just like being 28 this year yet living like an old man. Suddenly, a sedan stopped in front of him. Ju-won, who had driven over, directly demanded, "Why weren't you answering your phone?" Siyu was stunned too. This late at night, how do I just happen to run into Ju? After listening to Ju-won's whole explanation, Siyu suddenly thought, after the dinner gathering tonight, you actually dared to drive? He had just taken out his phone to take photos as evidence when Ju-won stopped him at once. Ju-won kept stressing that he hadn't drunk anything at the dinner at all. He even said, "If you don't believe me, Siyu can check it himself." Ju-won's attitude was so forceful that Siyu was scared into saying, "I was just joking." Ju-won stepped closer and closer, forcing Siyu into a corner against the wall. Siyu even thought Ju-won was about to start a fight, but Ju-won merely raised his hand and pinched Siyu's nose. Then he said, "I'll walk you home. Don't get bitten by poisonous bugs in the night." He even deliberately scared Siyu on purpose. Wild boars often appear around here. If Siyu didn't want to be the unlucky one attacked by a wild boar, he'd better follow him right away. Half believing, half doubting, Siyu had no choice but to walk with Ju-won. As they walked, they started talking about how much the elementary school had changed over the years. Not only had that nearly collapsing section of wall been repaired, even that classroom door that was always creaking had been replaced with a new one. Those things they used to do together as kids, secretly breaking school rules, also flickered through Ju-won's mind one by one like a revolving lantern. As they walked, Ju-won suddenly stopped in his tracks. With a serious face, he stared straight at Siyu and questioned him. 13 years ago, why did you suddenly leave without a single word? And you even made up stories about there being lots of bugs in the mountains and man-eating wild boars. If Siyu didn't want bad luck, he'd better let Ju-won personally see him home. In fact, this was exactly Ju-won's old sixth scheme. He wanted to take this chance to ask clearly why Siyu had disappeared without saying goodbye 13 years ago. Long-buried old memories were lifted, and the air instantly went quiet. Facing Ju-won's serious face, Siyu struggled for a long time before he vaguely brought up that school trip from many years ago. Ju-won clearly remembered the conversation between them back then, but he only brushed it off with a line. "At the time, it was my misjudgment." When Siyu heard this, he was clearly even more upset. He thought to himself, this guy just wants to pretend that confession never happened. But Siyu didn't dare to press further, because he was afraid that once he opened his mouth, he would ruin this relationship again. He could only push his grievances back down, lower his head, and force himself to swallow it. In the end, he could only pretend to be relaxed and say that he had gone to Seoul to study. He also hoped Ju-won would stop mocking him and not make him completely lose face. "Let's just say there are too many bugs in the mountains, so we'd better hurry home." He also told Ju-won he used to really want to go camping once, but unfortunately there were just too many bugs. After hearing that, Ju-won immediately followed up, "For camping, bringing insect repellent is enough. I clearly really hate that kind of activity, but when the school held camping trips before, I still took part." And Ju-won didn't continue that previous topic. With just that one line, "It was my mistake," Siyu felt like a fool. After that, he could only pretend that nothing had ever happened. Maybe that would feel a bit easier. Early the next morning, when the sun was already high in the sky, Siyu, who hadn't been sleeping well lately, was still lazing in bed, not wanting to move. It was strange. It was already so late, yet his mom still hadn't come to lift his blanket. Suddenly, the sound of the door being pushed open came through. Thinking it was his mom, he kept his eyes closed and said he'd get up right away. Afraid she would keep nagging, he turned over to show that he was awake. But in his groggy haze, the one who came into view was actually that guy Ju-won. Startled, Siyu immediately hurled his pillow at him, and the next second landed a punch right on his forehead. He couldn't figure out what sneaky thing Ju-won was up to this time, but Ju-won said he was there specifically to pick Siyu up. Not long after, Song-hyun also showed up at the door. This made the just-awakened Siyu even more annoyed. And on top of that, Song-hyun even urged him, "Hurry up and pack. We're leaving soon." Seeing that Siyu was still looking completely baffled, the two finally said they were taking him camping. So the three of them got in the car like that and drove onto the mountain road. Siyu couldn't help sighing. Life is unpredictable, like sausage wrapped in sausage. That Song-hyun, whose confession had been heartlessly rejected, and Ju-won, who had rejected him 10 years ago, were now actually going camping with him. He had just casually said something back then, yet they remembered it so clearly. But at this moment, Siyu also felt a bit uneasy. With such an awkward trio going out camping, was it really not going to end in disaster? Life really is impossible to predict. Just the day before, he had been so distressed, unable to untangle that four-person relationship. Yet now, there were only 3 people left in the car, already on the road to go camping. On the way, when he saw Siyu looking bored, Song Hyen said, "You can take a nap if you want." But something so awkward had just happened between him and the others, there was no way Siyu could fall asleep. After Song Hyen confirmed the destination, he quickly set up the tent once they arrived. Then he suggested, "Let's hook up the Bluetooth and blast some music for a bit." Watching this scene, a thought suddenly popped into Siyu's mind. When he's not around, they must be this happy too. But if he were to get closer to any one of them, this just right balance between them might end up being broken. As soon as the music in the car started playing, Siyu heard it was a super familiar old song and immediately got so excited he couldn't sit still. He also remembered how, when they were kids, the bunch of them would often play songs and lip sync, pretending to sing. And back then, Ju-won was always the one acting as the lead vocalist. As he listened to them pour out all those cringy middle school memories in one go, Ju-won was so embarrassed on the spot that he immediately cut in to stop them. In the brief moment when the few of them were happily horsing around, the car quickly arrived at their camping destination. The three of them looked at the ground full of tents, the air filled with the smell of camping. This place had completely exceeded Cus' expectations, and he couldn't help praising, "This is really amazing." After they got to the campsite, Song Hyen took the lead in getting the luggage settled, and he didn't forget to ask Siyu to help him record these beautiful moments. Ju-won, who had just finished greeting the boss, also casually brought them some coffee. At this moment, Siyu only felt very relaxed and very happy, and even the previous unpleasantness with Ju-won, as well as that sentence where he rejected Song Hyen's confession, were slowly pushed down in his heart. If the three of them could keep being this happy, maybe they could even go back to that former simplicity. The slightly weaker Ju-won was baked by the sun until he was drenched in sweat, and Siyu raised his hand to his own forehead and spoke just like when they were kids. "Follow big bro. I'll block the sun for you." Ju-won was stunned on the spot. Who would say, "The big bro who blocks the sun for me with such righteousness?" But even when Siyu stood up straight, his height didn't even reach Ju-won's chin. In the end, the two of them could only run around with cardboard boxes over their heads, and they actually had even more fun. Suddenly, it was as if Ju-won had seen something. He even raised his hand to signal Song Hyen to keep quiet, getting ready to pull a prank. He stared at Siyu, who was slumped over the table from exhaustion, and quietly walked up to stand in front of Siyu. Then he took out the earthworm he had just caught himself and stuck it right in front of Siyu's eyes. The thing was still wriggling. Siyu's scream exploded instantly, echoing straight through the mountains. Even though Ju-won kept apologizing afterward, the badly frightened Siyu still refused to forgive him no matter what. Listening to Ju-won and Song Hyen going on and on explaining and bickering, Siyu directly snapped at the two of them to shut up and be quiet. His eyes were full of tears as he glared fiercely at these two childish and annoying guys. Chances were, for the rest of the camping trip, none of them were going to have a good time. If three people travel together and there's no fun at all, can you even call it camping? But he never imagined he got pranked by old Ju again. Ju-won grabbed a handful of earthworms just to use them to scare him. Siyu was completely done for on the spot, and those two even thought he was making a big fuss over nothing. So after they finished eating the skewers, Song Hyen took the initiative to come over and comfort him. In a low voice, he asked Siyu to forgive them. Although Siyu's anger had gradually subsided, for Song Hyen's sake, since he wasn't the mastermind, he decided to let him off first. But as for Ju-won, that jerk who had made him lose face, he absolutely would not forgive him so easily. Russell. He didn't even want to get revenge using the same method. But Song Hyen said Ju-won wasn't afraid of bugs at all. They could switch to another approach. But Song Hyen leaned in too close, thinking Song Hyen was about to do something to him again. Siyu immediately jerked his head away. Sure enough, it was just as he had guessed in his mind a moment ago. Song Hyen opened his mouth and asked, "Can't we do it here?" Always being turned down, Song Hyen was clearly discouraged, so he simply came clean and brought up what had happened last time. He was very grateful that Song Hyen had confessed to him, but for him to accept those feelings was really very difficult. Song Hyen pressed him, "Is it because of Ju-won?" Siyu froze for a moment and didn't answer. Song Hyen said he had long since seen that Siyu had feelings for Ju-won from very early on. That was why, back then, he had stepped aside on his own. But now that Siyu had come back, he just wanted to seize this last chance. He begged Siyu to seriously consider him, just this once, even if it were only half. As long as it was half as much as he liked Ju-won, it would be enough. Seeing Song Hyen's trembling hand, he also understood how much courage that sentence had taken. But he was afraid their relationship would become completely strained. so he didn't dare think any further. He could clearly feel how serious Songhyun was, and he himself was indeed a little moved. So after hesitating for a moment, he finally said to Songhyun, "I'll think about it." Hearing that, Songhyun was so excited that he hugged Siyu on the spot. On the other side, Ju-won, who had gone to the car to look for something, came back empty-handed. Right at that moment, his younger brother was swearing on the phone, complaining that Ju-won didn't take him along to have fun. Ju-won clearly couldn't be bothered to respond. He casually brushed him off with a couple of words, then hung up. He was still thinking about how to coax Siyu out of his anger, but as soon as he looked up, he saw the two of them over there. So sweet they were practically glowing. What on earth were those two talking about? Laughing like that and leaning so close together. Just looking at that aggrieved face of Ju-won, I, on the other hand, was overjoyed, almost as happy as those two. That guy who usually loves to play pranks the most actually took the initiative to ask for forgiveness. It was honestly the first time I'd seen it. It really opened my eyes. Just because he saw how excitedly Siyu and Songhyun were chatting, Ju-won's expression turned so sour it was like he had swallowed something nasty. He quietly moved closer to the two of them, directly pulled them apart, and snapped, his tone downright sharp. "What are you talking about that's so fun?" Siyu immediately stood up. "What we're talking about is none of your business. Stop prying. Don't stick your nose in too far." And he just had to make Songhyun stand in the middle, passing messages for him. But kind-hearted Songhyun could only give an awkward little smile. Who knew Ju-won would get even more fired up. He also had Songhyun pass a message to Siyu. "Pack up, we're heading down the mountain. If you don't want to come with us, then stay here and feed the wild boars." But at the end of the day, it was just the three of them bickering. Before long, Ju-won drove and dropped Songhyun off at his front door. Siyu was still angry and wanted to get out of the car with him, but Ju-won grabbed him in one move. "I'll drive you a bit further." In the car, Ju-won cautiously probed, "Siyu, are you still mad?" Siyu shot back in an icy tone. "What difference does it make whether I'm mad or not? You keep lying to yourself, and your character is questionable too. There's nothing for us to talk about." He even dug up old grievances. "Back when we were competing in drinking, you took the chance to bully me." After hearing that, Ju-won not only didn't feel guilty, he instead insisted, "I did not lie." But Siyu didn't buy it at all. He only felt that this guy must be plotting something bad again. But now, Siyu was already certain. The strawberry culprit was Songhyun. Siyu was afraid Ju-won would use this incident to stir up trouble again. He could only suppress his emotions and compose his expression. "I did say that. Maybe I just don't remember." But Ju-won added another line. "There's another really important part, which you probably forgot too." He was still trying to set another trap for Siyu and gloss over today's prank. But Siyu hadn't forgiven Ju-won yet and didn't want to stay with him any longer. Siyu tightened his expression and was just about to get out of the car when Ju-won grabbed him. Just as he was about to get out of the car and was yanked back by Ju-won, Ju-won actually took the initiative to apologize for teasing Siyu with worms today. "To help you cool off. Forgive me, Hearing Ju-won say something like that, Siyu was completely stunned. Ju-won gazed at him, eagerly waiting for a response from Siyu. It was the first time Siyu had seen Ju-won bow his head first, and he actually kind of savored the moment. Ju-won even told Siyu to punch him. Anywhere was fine, as long as it helped him vent his anger. Siyu had absolutely no idea what Ju-won was trying to do. Siyu suddenly raised his hand, and it just so happened to hit Ju-won right on the nose. Siyu panicked for a split second. Instinctively, he wanted to check whether he had hurt Ju-won. But just as he unbuckled his seatbelt, he was pulled straight into Ju-won's arms by Ju-won, who was pretending to be in pain. Siyu was so angry on the spot, he wanted to smash this mutt's head in. He hadn't expected Ju-won to still be in the mood to joke around with him at a time like this. What a childish idiot. But Ju-won just had to seize on that punch from earlier, saying they could call it even for what happened yesterday. And he smoothly tried to take things a step further. No matter where this guy goes, he can't shake off his reputation as a total schemer. All day long, all he thinks about is teasing boys for his own amusement. He even wants to slowly devour a boy, leaving nothing behind. Not long ago, the three of them had just finished a camping trip. After dropping Songhyun's younger brother off at home, Siyu wanted to get out of the car with them, but Ju-won stopped him with one move. He even declared that today he was going to fuck the boy good and hard. The boy's small face instantly flushed bright red, and he struggled desperately to break free. He swung his fists in protest, but in Ju-won's eyes, that only made it more fun. The more worked up the boy got, the more excited Ju-won became. He even said he was going to make up for what they hadn't managed to do that night last time. He blamed himself for not being there that night, or else there wouldn't have been any regrets. He suddenly asked Siyu, Did he like it better outdoors? Ju-won, carried away by his excitement, didn't care in the slightest whether the boy agreed or not. He directly started groping the boy all over. It didn't take long before the boy went limp all over and collapsed in his arms. Afterwards, Ju-won actually said that next time they should be even crazier. Then Ju-won went home, thoroughly satisfied. He took a drink out of the fridge. He even casually told his younger brother Ju-ho to go to bed early, or he wouldn't grow tall. But his brother snapped back at him, "Mind your own business." He even said he was studying seriously. Of course, Ju-won knew he was trying to curry favor with teacher Siyu, but he really looked down on this kind of behavior from his brother. Yet his brother said that things between him and Siyu were progressing very smoothly, and that they had already gone all the way. As soon as Ju-won heard that, his smile instantly froze. He put down his glass of water and started making endless sarcastic comments. He said that Siyu had always treated him like a kid, but his brother replied, "These days everyone likes younger guys. Didn't you know? You call that younger?" If that were really the case, Siyu would have been hauled off in handcuffs long ago. "Stop daydreaming all day and go study properly for me." With that, he dropped the matter and turned around to go to sleep himself. The next day, as soon as Ju-won arrived at school, some students Dudong greeted him. He smiled back at every single one of them. Seeing him so gentle for the first time, the two classmates were stunned on the spot. And just as he walked into the teacher's office, a female teacher enthusiastically handed him the materials he had asked for. Ju-won also smiled politely and thanked her, which made several of the female teachers all show a "did I see that right?" expression at the same time. A male teacher walked over and teased him. "You haven't fallen in love, have you?" Ju-won was clearly stunned for a moment and only said that he really did have that plan now. But on the other side, our protagonist was so worried he didn't know what to do. He was still struggling over whether or not he should go tutor Ju-ho. After all, he was afraid he would run into Ju-won again. If that guy caught him, he'd probably be drained dry with nothing left. Just a few days ago, he had thought the two of them had already stepped back to the friend's position. But looking at it now, their relationship was nowhere near sorted out. He picked up his phone, ready to send a message saying today's tutoring was cancelled. But his fingers froze. Tomorrow's chat log was full of messages from that sly fox Ju-won, with a few inexplicable lines from Ju-ho mixed in. That made Siyu even more certain. Ju-won was a complete and utter lunatic. He was just going over to tutor that studious younger brother. Nothing more. Yet he was forcibly dragged by the sly older brother into doing things that made his body and mind lose control. But the problem was, this tutoring session was something he couldn't back out of. So Siyu could only grit his teeth and show up at the door. He was still calculating in his mind. Leave immediately after tutoring, not staying a second longer. But the moment he opened the door, that sly fox Ju-won was already waiting there. Siyu was so startled his heart suddenly dropped, almost leaping out on the spot. And the sly one even complained that he was moving too slowly. He even reminded him to get himself mentally prepared first, because after the tutoring session, they needed to have a proper talk. Meanwhile, the younger brother Ju-ho was clearly nervous, his whole demeanor tense because his scores were unbearably bad. Siyu could only first comfort Ju-ho. "It's not a big deal if your score is a bit low this time." In fact, Siyu had deliberately raised the difficulty of the questions. After all, the little brother's wish was really way too intimate. He was afraid that if he got a full score again, he would once more become Ju-ho's prey. During the break in their tutoring session, Siyu casually asked, "Why don't I see Auntie around?" When he heard Ju-ho say that mom and dad weren't home, Siyu immediately jolted on the spot. He had originally thought uncle and auntie were home, so Ju-won would more or less hold back. But Ju-ho just had to emphasize, "Sixth brother is here." At that, Siyu panicked even more, silently and desperately wishing auntie could come home right away. Otherwise today, he was definitely going to be eaten clean to the bone by Ju-won. However, sixth brother outside the door had long since run out of patience. Hearing that Siyu wanted to drag Ju-ho in to be his human shield, Ju-won simply laughed and said, "You still dare play little tricks with me?" As soon as the two of them pushed the door open, Ju-won coldly ordered Ju-ho, "Hand him over." The moment Siyu heard that, he immediately dodged. "Ju-ho is taking me to the station." Ju-won was displeased on the spot, and when he heard his younger brother say, "Don't get in the way of our time together," a rotten idea popped into Ju-won's head right away. He said that since mom wasn't home, he could let Ju-ho stay up all night playing, and he'd keep it a secret. As for sending Siyu off, Ju-ho didn't need to worry about that anymore. Completely dazed, Siyu had no idea what kind of secret code they were speaking in. He only saw Ju-ho saying, "Teacher, I'm sorry, let's meet another time," and in the next second darting back into his own room at lightning speed. Left behind, the mercilessly sold out Siyu was so aggrieved that he couldn't even make a sound, lying at the door cursing Juho what a traitor. But Ju-won is not buying it at all. Are you going to walk to my room yourself? Or do you want me to carry you over? Siyu's brain still hasn't caught up when Ju-won already hoists Siyu up in one go and directly throws him hard onto his own bed, no matter how much Siyu begs him to be gentle. From Ju-won's expression, it's obvious he can't wait any longer. The moment he grabs Siyu, he just wants to drag him into playing Do Diju together. Siyu is helpless. Really, there's nothing left but helplessness. Ju-won inches closer to him bit by bit. Those mood-lifting things, I really love doing them too. He makes liking to mess with people sound like a kind of enjoyment, and only someone like Ju-won could say that. Hearing Ju-won say, I like Samhack, Siyu even thought he was going to confess, but it turns out he just wants to keep playing, and even declares that he's in an especially good mood today. He deliberately brings up how the first time was after drinking, the second time was here in this very room, and the third time was in the car a few days ago. The meaning is obvious. It's about time for Siyu to take the initiative. Before Siyu can even finish saying, I can help you out once, Ju-won already can't hold back. No matter how Siyu shouts or begs for mercy, since his parents aren't home anyway, he's not scared at all. At this point, Ju-won only gets even more excited. Siyu is completely in despair and can only grit his teeth and get through it this time. Early the next morning, Song Hyeon is already up working. He looked at Siyu's house not far away, completely unable to figure out what Siyu Hyung was busy with. From yesterday until now, not a single message had been replied to, even though he clearly said he'd call me as soon as he saw them. All of a sudden, Song Hyeon felt a wave of panic in his chest. After tormenting himself over it again and again, he still decided to go over and look for him. On the other side, Siyu slept straight till noon before he slowly opened his eyes. As soon as he looked up, he saw Ju-won lying beside him, and Siyu was scared out of his wits on the spot. The next second, he finally reacted what had happened with Ju-won last night. He stared at Ju-won's sleeping face, thinking to himself, when he's asleep, he actually looks quite gentlemanly. But the problem is, why did he suddenly act like a completely different person last night? Just then, Ju-won suddenly opened those droopy, half-lidded eyes. He reached out in one motion and pulled Siyu straight into his arms. Sleep a bit more. I'll take you home later. The moment he was pulled into an embrace, Siyu's heart felt like it was about to explode. What is this supposed to be? Are we acting like lovers now? But then why had he always gone out of his way to tease him before? Even if he had once shown a gentle side. If he had been like this a little earlier, maybe Siyu would have liked him a bit more. But after all, he had said those hurtful things. And yet now, Siyu actually found himself being flirted with and moved by him again. Even that, I like you, might have been nothing more than him wanting to mess with Siyu, teasing him on purpose. Might have been nothing more than him wanting to toy with Siyu, just trying to drag him off to play cards with him. But Siyu was in no mood to go back to sleep at all, taking advantage of the fact that Ju-won was still fast asleep. Siyu simply got up, planning to go straight home. On the way, he kept thinking, if he continued to tutor Ju-ho, it would be hard to avoid running into Ju-won again. He picked up his phone and only then realized that Song Hyeon had sent him so many messages. As soon as he thought of how Song Hyeon had once asked, could he maybe consider him, and then looked at himself trapped in this tangled, unclear relationship. The more Siyu thought about it, the more conflicted he felt. The more he thought, the more helpless he became, and his eyes slowly filled with tears. Suddenly, a hand reached from behind and covered his eyes. The person who came was none other than Song Hyeon, the younger brother who had come especially to find him. Hyung, why aren't you watching where you're going? You almost bumped into me. But as soon as Siyu recognized that it was Song Hyeon's voice, his tears burst out uncontrollably all at once. Like a child, he buried his head hard into Song Hyeon's arms. Song Hyeon still didn't know what exactly he had gone through the previous night. Song Hyeon only called to him softly, Hyung, don't cry, come home with me first. So who will you choose? The gentle, considerate puppy-like younger brother Song Hyeon, or that troublemaking sixth child who's always bullying you, Ju-won? A boy's heart was probably starting to waver bit by bit as well. Song Hyeon, who had stayed over at Ju-won's house the previous night, slipped out at daybreak. Siyu had been looking for him, and the moment they met, he rushed over, threw himself into his arms, and burst into tears. Song Hyeon first pulled Siyu into an embrace, soothing him in a low voice as he brought him back to his own place. But Siyu's face was pale, and his whole state was utterly terrible. Song Hyeon frowned and asked, did that guy Ju-won force you to play fight the landlord again? Siyu hurriedly denied it, flustered, saying no. but Song Hyan pressed him. Then why are you crying? Because Siyu knew that Song Hyan could tell he liked Ju-won. Siyu was stuck all of a sudden and had no idea how to explain. All the more since he had just been crying so miserably in Song Hyan's arms. If he just brushed it off with some random excuse, it would be far too unfair to Song Hyan. So Siyu decided not to hide it anymore. He confessed to Song Hyan that he had confessed his feelings before, but had been rejected. And the jerk who rejected him was Ju-won. Hearing this, Song Hyan was completely stunned. The two of them were silent for a very, very long time. This plot was just too ridiculous. Who on earth could write such an absurd development? Song Hyan stared at Siyu and pressed him. What do you really feel in your heart? Siyu grew even more flustered, choking up for a while, before saying, I can't even explain what exactly is going on. It's just that every time Ju-won takes the initiative to get close to me, I felt like I was being pulled in and couldn't refuse at all. Hearing this, Song Hyan's expression instantly collapsed. He pulled Siyu straight into his arms. All right, Siyu Hyung, say no more. But that hug instead made Siyu start crying again. Unable to stop, Song Hyan immediately kept coaxing him, gently comforting him, telling Siyu, if it were me, I would never let him feel this insecure. But at the moment of the second confession, Siyu still couldn't help thinking, if only he could let go of Ju-won and choose me. As soon as that thought landed, Siyu's heart began pounding wildly. Yet, just as the two were about to move into a sweet moment, Song Hyan's mom came over with breakfast and called them to eat. The morning's flirtatious mood was put on pause just like that. With his mood interrupted, Song Hyan nearly ground his back teeth to dust. Siyu Hyung, just stay and have breakfast with us. And because of that sudden break a second ago, he could only head to the bathroom first to cool down a bit. Siyu had just bumped into Song Hyan's dad when he was directly asked, you must have a lot of girls chasing after you, right? If you see someone suitable, help keep an eye out for our Song Hyan. After hearing that, Siyu's expression instantly froze, as if he were wearing a mask of pain, and he forced himself not to respond. Song Hyan's dad kept grumbling. Stuck with such a useless son, he can't even find a partner, really delaying him from holding a grandchild. Song Hyan had already heard it so many times that his ears were numb, too lazy to talk back and not wanting to respond. The first thing he did was look at Siyu and say quietly, don't mind what the old man says. After the meal, Song Hyan's mom suggested the two of them go for a walk around the farm together. Siyu hesitated in his heart for a long time, but with Song Hyan clinging to him like a little puppy and begging, he finally nodded. Okay, let's go relax together. But he had just stepped out the door when his phone rang, a call from the sixth brother, Ju-won. Siyu was hesitating over whether to answer or not when Song Hyan immediately stepped forward to stop him, signaling him not to pick up. Don't think about Ju-won Hyung today, just stay with me. All right? On the other end of the line, the sixth brother was both sad and helpless. Message after message bombarded him, yet he still couldn't get a reply. And when Siyu saw that Song Hyan's hair was a bit frizzy, he couldn't hold back his amusement and pressed his lips together to tuck the smile away. But seeing him smile so happily, even the frizzy-haired Song Hyan felt at ease. He pulled Siyu into his arms once again, just about to continue the gentle comfort from the morning, when of all times, Song Hyan's dad came back again to return the car keys they had dropped. Song Hyan, helpless, really just completely helpless, and Siyu, who had just pushed the mood to its peak, had his heart pounding and his face red like an apple. Of course, Song Hyan had also been waiting for Siyu's answer. He reminded Siyu, next time, you must honestly tell me what your choice is. After that, the two of them set off for the farm. Looking at Song Hyan's back, facing the Song Hyan he liked, Siyu also began to waver in his heart. He was figuring that he had to settle things with Ju-won as soon as possible. The gentle and gentlemanly puppy-like younger brother was simply overjoyed today. Seizing the opportunity, he finally won over the Siyu Hyung he had been longing for. Working together with him, he even took the chance to show off his abs. Who could see that and not be moved? After finishing their walk around the farm with Song Hyan, Siyu went back home, and because he was so tired, he went straight upstairs to his room to sleep. But Ju-won, who had been thinking about Siyu all day, showed up again uninvited. After greeting the auntie, he said he was exhausted from extra classes and hadn't rested well, so he had specially come to check on Siyu. As soon as he finished speaking, he headed straight for Siyu's room. Seeing Siyu curled up under the covers, Ju-won thought he was pretending to sleep and wanted to tease him. Hey, you brat. Stop pretending and get up. If you don't get up, I'm really going to misbehave. But Siyu was sleeping like he was powered off with no reaction at all. Ju-won slipped his hand to Siyu's side at the waist, and without a word, started tickling him directly. So sleepy he could hardly stand it, Siyu just casually turned over. Only then did Ju-won confirm that this guy was really asleep. He gently brushed his fingers over Siyu's eyelids, the corners of his mouth curling into a wicked smile. He muttered under his breath, "You ignore my calls all day and think a single "see you later" is enough to brush me off. If you won't come to me, then I'll just come to you myself. And I also heard from Auntie that you had a great time on your date with Song Hyeon. So what? If you think you can shake me off, that's impossible. Siyu, you'd better figure it out soon." Early the next morning, as soon as Siyu opened his eyes, he caught a whiff of something delicious. Awake, his mom had made his favorite seaweed soup for him. It's not even a special day or anything, but the full spread on the table was obviously laying it on thick for Siyu. "Don't make it look like we're repaying some huge debt at home." She even casually brought up Ju-won coming over yesterday. The moment Siyu heard that, his heart started racing, anxiety spiking as he panicked over whether Ju-won had said something he shouldn't have. But his mom just said sternly that if he really couldn't handle the tutoring side job, then he shouldn't do it, and that he shouldn't stay up late every day for it. Hearing this, Siyu replied awkwardly that he would be more careful from now on, while secretly feeling relieved that Ju-won apparently hadn't spilled anything. But his mom immediately added, "If it doesn't work out, then just quit altogether. After all, I was the one who pushed you into taking this part-time job in the first place. At worst, we just return the money to them, that's all." She even put on a sincere face and apologized to Siyu. That only made Siyu feel even more guilty. He quickly told his mom that he actually really treasured this opportunity. Being a bit tired was still better than doing nothing at home. He blushed and said in a low voice, "Don't talk like that again in the future." But the next second, his mom suddenly pulled out her phone. "You said all of that yourself just now. I recorded everything." Seeing this, Siyu completely panicked, looking terrified like a clown. So it turned out that his mom's whole table of good dishes, the red wine, and those words just now were all an act. His plan to stay away from Ju-won had fallen through once again. In the afternoon, his mom called Siyu downstairs to the orchard. She also said that Song Hyeon would be coming to help. She told Siyu to bring a hat for Song Hyeon on the way. When he reached the orchard, Siyu kept thinking the whole way, how exactly should he get along with Song Hyeon? As soon as Song Hyeon arrived, he first checked on him, asking if he had rested well. He even said he thought Siyu wouldn't be coming today. But the moment Siyu got shy, the air instantly became a bit awkward. He quickly handed the hat over, finally breaking the silence. And Song Hyeon even deliberately looked for a chance to move closer, reaching out to tighten the hat strap for him. That kind of gentle and sweet smile was so close it was impossible to dodge. Siyu felt weak in his heart. Did he really still have the strength to work today? After that, Song Hyeon took the initiative to teach Siyu how to bag the fruit. Seeing that Siyu's movements were very skillful, he finished it all in no time. Song Hyeon immediately showered him with praise, almost making Siyu float. The two of them worked while laughing and chatting. The ambiguous atmosphere spread across the whole orchard like sunlight. When Siyu needed to climb higher, Song Hyeon took the initiative to hold his waist, afraid he might fall. But with that touch, Siyu's whole body instantly went up in flames. Cough. His heartbeat was so out of control he almost wanted to call an ambulance. After resting for a while, Siyu thought he should also bring some water over for Song Hyeon. Just then, Song Hyeon lifted the hem of his shirt to wipe his sweat. Those firm abs made it impossible for Siyu to look away. He even subconsciously compared them with Ju-won's. On this front, Ju-won was just way too skinny. He really shouldn't keep looking. Suddenly, Song Hyeon noticed him sneaking glances. Siyu got even more obviously nervous. Practically the textbook definition of, "There's no silver buried here." He still stubbornly claimed he was only there to bring water. The moment he handed over the cup, Song Hyeon suddenly grabbed Siyu's hand. "Hyung, your reaction is just too cute. I really can't hold back much longer. I really want to kiss you right now. And yesterday we kept getting interrupted by my family. Today, Siyu is being especially noticeably cute. That little bad intention I have towards Siyu has always been there." Seeing that the place was full of parents, Siyu really felt it wasn't convenient. He yanked Song Hyeon up and took him straight home. Song Hyeon had been holding back for a long time. As soon as they stepped inside, he pounced. Once the two of them got carried away, their emotions followed right into place. But just then, Song Hyeon suddenly pulled back a kiss. He said he had to go wash his hands first so he wouldn't get Siyu dirty. Siyu was so thrown off by this whole act that he wanted to laugh but also felt a little soft-hearted. Even though their first time together couldn't be as perfect as in a drama. After Song Hyeon finished washing his hands, he immediately rushed back to stand in front of Siyu. He cupped Siu's cheeks and lowered his head to kiss him sweetly. Can you believe it? What was supposed to be a barbecue party organized by the boys actually turned into a battlefield for fighting over him. What's even more ridiculous is that while he was just watching the drama from the sidelines, it somehow ended up involving himself. Only then did he realize that the real strawberry culprit was actually someone else. On the phone, little Juho was still concerned about how Siu was feeling physically. Not long after, his mom burst into his room, saying that today Siu was coming over to their house for a barbecue party. Time skips, and it's already evening. Siu and his mom arrive at Juwon's house, and as soon as the auntie sees Siu, she can't stop doting on him, even saying that Siu's mom has exploited him to the point of making him sick, which is just too much. She even specially bought beef and red ginseng for Siu, so he could nourish his body. Looking at that piece of fresh, tender beef, even I couldn't help but start drooling. Siu's mom and Songhyeon are also staring eagerly, waiting to eat the beef, but Juho pipes up. The beef is only for Siu. After the feast, they all sit in the yard munching on watermelon. Little fanboy Juho is still staring at Siu the whole time. Worried that Siu's body might not have fully recovered yet, he felt a wave of guilt in his heart. If it weren't for giving me extra tutoring, Siu wouldn't be this exhausted. As soon as the words left his mouth, Siu hurried to explain in a panic. It's not what you think. Off to the side, Juwon started making snide, sarcastic comments again. If you hadn't gamed that night and had chosen Siu instead, he wouldn't have been so drained from that day on. Afraid that Juwon's mouth would just keep running, Siu directly threw a punch and shut that big mouth of his. Little Juho, don't take it to heart. That guy Juwon is just teasing you on purpose. Taking advantage of this gap, Siu began sorting things out in his mind. The relationship between these three and himself. Everything that was bound to happen has already happened. Now that they're all sitting at the same table, he feels like a lamb waiting to be slaughtered. Heh, a Juwon that no one can see through. Also the source of his first love trauma, the ultimate schemer himself. Juho, on the other hand, is kind and simple, and he genuinely likes him as a teacher. And then there's Songhyeon, the awkward party involved in that thing that just happened, with whom he hasn't even managed to have a proper conversation. What's worse is that Songhyeon also knows about his thing with Juwon. He's terrified that big-mouth Juwon will slip up and spill that most embarrassing part about the two of them. So he immediately changes the subject and asks Juho, when does your summer vacation start? Songhyeon also takes the chance to call his younger sister. The result is, his sister says, Dad got drunk again and is making a scene at home. Juwon chimed in from the side. Let my sister make you some honey water to sober you up. He didn't expect Juho to jump in right away. Hyung, if you want to drink honey water in the future, just have sister-in-law make it for you. You're getting married soon anyway. The bombshell that Juwon was getting married dropped out of nowhere, and the other two were instantly stunned on the spot. They immediately pressed Juwon on the spot. You punk? You're getting married and didn't say a word? Do we brothers still mean anything to you or not? Juwon was so embarrassed he wished he could find a crack in the ground and crawl into it. Then his younger brother twisted the knife further. He's getting married within this year. So angry that Juwon simply shut his eyes. Even his breathing was full of suppressed fire. The two who took this seriously suddenly felt as if they'd been betrayed. But Juho was still fanning the flames beside them, getting more worked up the more he talked. Pushed to his limit, Juwon turned his head and rebuked him sharply in an icy tone. He also made it clear in front of Siu, Juho was just making things up. Juho even turned it around to mock him, saying he'd gone on several blind dates and none had worked out. Was it that Juwon looked down on the girls? Or did he just know deep down that he wasn't good enough for them? Hearing this, Siu suddenly realized they really had all reached the age when they should be getting married. He zoned out for a second and nearly bit into the watermelon rind. Seeing this, Songhyeon's hand moved, and he held out a slice of watermelon in front of him. He finally found a chance to say something to Siu. Lowering his voice with concern, he asked, Are you feeling any better now? Siu replied in a low voice, It's all fine now. You don't need to worry about me so much. Songhyeon immediately laughed and casually said that he really should have shown more restraint last night. What does restraint mean? Juwon was probably really itching to stab him on the spot at that moment. After that, the elder called Songhyeon away. Siu also understood that those words were deliberately said for Juwon to hear, using Songhyeon to pressure him. Siu recalled their first night together and hadn't expected Songhyeon to have such a cute side. But in the next second, Siu thought of the strawberry culprit incident. If Juwon knew the culprit was Songhyeon and still wanted to sleep with him, what on earth is this man thinking? Siu simply asked directly, You clearly know who the culprit is, So why did you still do that kind of thing? Ju-won raised an eyebrow. You're that curious? That's kind of cute. Ju-won went on. But I don't care at all. The other person isn't as good as me anyway. Siyu was almost fuming. He cursed him in his heart for being so narcissistic. How can your little bit of ability even compare to Song Hyeon? Ju-won stared at him and pressed. Do you care a lot about Song Hyeon? Siyu didn't dodge it, of course. When it comes to Song Hyeon, my heart has started to flutter too. Ju-won was both angry and shocked. What? You're actually serious about that kind of kid? Holding back his temper, Ju-won said, no matter what, how can you have those kinds of thoughts about a middle schooler? But Ju-won didn't know that the person Siyu had been talking about was always Song Hyeon. Siyu was stunned as well. Why would he say that Song Hyeon is a middle schooler? Only then did he suddenly realize the strawberry culprit was not Song Hyeon at all. It was Ju-ho, the one who'd been making Siyu do all those extra lessons. The moment Ju-ho appeared, Siyu shot to his feet and rushed over, wanting to just beat the crap out of him. Thankfully, Song Hyeon was strong and grabbed him right away. But that brief distance between the two of them was so ambiguously intimate it was blinding. Ju-won's expression instantly turned pitch black. And only then did Siyu realize. Turns out Song Hyeon had known the truth all along. With Ju-ho coming back today, he'd basically walked right into the trap himself. By the looks of it, Ju-ho wasn't going to escape a brutal beating from Siyu either. Song Hyeon was utterly amused by how fiercely protective Siyu was of him, but he didn't notice that Ju-won behind him had already started wanting to kill him. Here we go, babies. Today can be considered the first real date, in the true sense, between the boy and old six Ju-won. On screen, the two of them buy coffee and stroll around the supermarket together. Muttering to himself, the Siyu who lost the bet gets a flick to the forehead, and he finally understands what it means to give a slap, then hand over a piece of candy. The night before, because he'd seen the intimate interaction between Song Hyeon and Siyu, Ju-won felt a wave of defeat and couldn't focus on preparing his lessons at all. He suddenly realized he couldn't just keep on waiting anymore. He picked up the phone and directly discussed a plan with Siyu's mom. Right after that, on the other end, Mom called Siyu out. Tell Siyu that they'll be going out later, and that he should stop by the supermarket to buy some toiletries on the way back. Before she even finished speaking, Ju-won had already arrived at their front door. Siyu's heart trembled, just thinking about having to be with Ju-won again. Siyu immediately declared on the spot, "There's absolutely no way I'm going." But his mom just felt that having someone drive him for free was something to secretly rejoice over. How could she know that all of this was part of a plan between Ju-won and her? Not giving Siyu any chance to stall, Ju-won directly yanked him out the door. Once in the car, Siyu's face was full of reluctance, and he simply fell silent. With one line, "Aren't you planning to fasten your seatbelt?" Ju-won startled him into a jolt. Flustered, he hurriedly buckled his seat belt with a click. At the same time, his mind flashed back to what had happened in the car with Ju-won before. Siyu thought to himself, what is this dangerous guy trying to pull this time? Today is our first date, and I'm really happy. Hearing that, Siyu exploded on the spot. Who the hell wants to go on a date with you? Ju-won told him that today they would eat together, go shopping, and have coffee. If that's not a date, then what else could it be? But Siyu felt that their relationship had always been vague and unclear. He really couldn't figure out whether what they were doing actually counted as a date or not. Of course, Ju-won had also explained. It was his mother who told him to make it up properly to Siyu. He could see clearly that Siyu, whose thoughts were written all over his face, actually didn't want to go out with him. So he went to talk to Auntie first and made the plan very thorough. You just need to relax today. I'll stay with you the whole time. But Siyu, who knew nothing about the specific plans, was clearly a bit flustered. Before long, the two of them stopped in front of a tall building. Siyu froze. Weren't we supposed to go to a cafe and a supermarket? Why did we end up at a hospital? What are you trying to do? Ju-won said they should do a checkup first, then get some tonic medicine. For this kind of plan, did you get my consent? Oh, Ju-won, explain this to me clearly. Siyu, afraid of being taken advantage of, had anger written all over his face. Be good, don't be scared. We'll still see each other in the future. Why would I lie to you? After walking around for most of the day, Siyu was so tired his mind went blank. They called it a date. Yet he suddenly dragged him to the hospital. He even forced him to drink 2 servings of samjitang. But what annoyed Siyu more was, clearly he's so stupid, and yet for a split second his heart actually raced for him. After that, Ju-won suggested going to the department store together. But on the way there, the two of them decided to get a cup of coffee first. Since you treated me to the meal, I'll treat you to coffee. Ju-won agreed very readily, and even deliberately picked the most expensive one. Taking the chance, he asked Siyu, Why did Juho want to leave hickeys on you? Siyu stared at him. Why are you so hung up on this? How could I not be curious? When you found out that day, Juho almost got torn apart by you on the spot. Turns out Juho told him he learned leaving marks from a classmate, so he wanted to try it himself once. Also because Siyu's neck is too eye-catching, too beautiful, so he just couldn't hold back. However, Siyu didn't tell Juwon and still hasn't cooled down even now. What's more, including Juwon, the three of them teamed up to trick him, which really made him feel very uncomfortable. After buying their coffee, the two of them walked into the grocery store and started agonizing again as they stared at two kinds of shampoo. No matter how they tried, they just couldn't remember which one they usually used at home. Seeing that Siyu couldn't make a choice yet was still being stubborn, Juwon simply suggested a bet. The winner gets to flick the loser on the forehead. After asking the lady on the left, the victorious Juwon couldn't wait any longer. Siyu leaned his forehead toward him and quietly said he hoped Juwon would go easy, muttering. However, all he heard was a sharp snap, and Siyu was flicked so hard he couldn't say a word on the spot. You bastard! I told you to be gentle. Are you trying to get rid of me? Juwon immediately pulled him into his arms. I'm really sorry. I haven't done that in a long time and couldn't control my strength. Hurry. Let me blow on it for you. After that, just as they were about to go pay, Siyu accidentally scraped his knee again. To his surprise, Juwon actually mocked him. How can someone this grown still get hurt? Honestly, the second I take my eyes off you, you just can't give me any peace of mind. Grumbling, who would have thought I'd end up having to put medicine on Siyu's knee? After dawdling for ages, Juwon suddenly said he felt really sad inside. He asked Siyu if he knew why parents always nag their children. Because of love, because they care so much, that's why. And the way I feel about you is exactly the same. Are you crazy? In that instant, Siyu suddenly understood. As long as his reactions were interesting enough, Juwon would keep teasing him, so he decided he wouldn't react anymore from now on. Having been seen through, Juwon felt a bit awkward. He lowered his head and asked Siyu in a very serious tone. Then what should I do for you to feel that I'm sincere? Being asked that, Siyu felt both shy and nervous, but Juwon just kept staring at him without blinking, staring for a long time. After everything was done, the two of them drove home. All the way back, Siyu kept replaying Juwon's words, and that serious expression he had never seen before. The more he thought about it, the more he felt that Juwon was impossible to read. After they got home, Siyu planned to go straight in, but he was suddenly stopped by Juwon. You're just going to walk off like this? I've played chauffeur for you all day. I'm really hurt. Even though he was clearly refusing in his heart, Siyu still slowly closed his eyes. Why are you closing your eyes? Do you think I'm going to do something to you? Siyu hurried to explain that it was just a conditioned reflex. The next second, he cooled down again, his whole body showing almost no reaction. Juwon held his emotions back with all his might, to the point of feeling suffocated. Even if it meant they might fall out, he still had to say it outright. I really can't hold back anymore. As soon as he finished speaking, he leaned in and kissed Siyu. Just from Siyu's expression after the kiss, it was obvious. He was already completely in the palm of Juwon's hand. But just as Juwon wanted to lean in a little closer and spell out his feelings more clearly, the car window was suddenly knocked on by someone. Siyu-ji, you're here too? What are you guys doing? The gentle, gentlemanly puppy-like younger bro finally toughened up for once today. He watched as the Siyu-ji he liked kept getting teased and played with by that jerk Juwon, and on top of that, the two of them had just been making out hot and heavy in the car, so the love rival battlefield over Siyu instantly ignited. After wandering around all day, Siyu and Juwon had just finished kissing when the car window was suddenly knocked on. The one who came was exactly Song Hyeon, the younger bro who had come looking for him. Go, so it turns out you went out with Juwon Ji and just got back. He even said he brought some green onion kimchi from home and asked if Siyu had anything he needed to move so they could do it together. After saying goodbye to Juwon, Siyu picked up the stuff and walked home together with Song Hyeon. Only the jealousy-soaked Juwon was left, grinding his molars in the car until they creaked. When the two of them got home, they first put the things down. Guh. Didn't you say you took a taxi out? So why were you just with Juwon again, Afraid that Song Hyeon would overthink it, Siyu hurried to explain, but the more he explained, the messier it got. It sounded even more like excuses made by a lover caught cheating. Song Hyeon stared at him and asked, was it really just a coincidence? Of course it was real, we just casually had a meal. Song Hyeon suddenly raised his voice. You big liar. His gaze drifted, full of disappointment and dejection. What is there to lie about? I saw with my own eyes you and Juwon Ji kissing in the car. Now you say it was just a coincidence. Who would believe that? As soon as those words came out, cold sweat instantly broke out all over Siwoo's back. He wanted to explain that it had all been forced on him by Ju-won. But in the end, Siwoo still fell silent. After all, they had already kissed, and the facts were right there. Instead, Song-hyun hugged him first, then you and Ju-won. How many times has it been? Exactly? Being asked like that, Siwoo was so embarrassed his fingers were about to dig a hole in the floor. Judging from that, it seemed the number of times was so high he couldn't even bring himself to say it. And he also realized he'd long since been left far behind by Ju-won. But I put up with it all only for you, Siwoo. I get sad too. I feel wrong too. And I need a way to let my emotions out. I get jealous too. And sometimes I even hate the person I am right now. Young. Do you hate me for being this childish too? All Siwoo could do was apologize first, admitting that this was indeed his own fault. Before he could even finish, Song-hyun was already closing in on him step by step, but was stopped by Siwoo in time. Young, have you already decided to choose Ju-won? If not, then give me one chance to make it up to you, okay? Song-hyun scooped Siwoo up in his arms, saying that he would be careful today. Then, on the soft bed, they played out a paid scene that can't be described in detail. Meanwhile, on the other side, Ju-won was still calling Siwoo over and over, but no one picked up on the other end, and Ju-won was so furious he started cursing on the spot. His younger brother said their mom had gone to the sauna with a few aunties. Even worse, Siwoo's mom was in there too. As soon as Ju-won thought of this, his heart suddenly sank. Something bad had happened. He was just about to head out to check on things at Siwoo's house, but he ran right into his dad, who had just gotten off work and come home. You're not allowed to go out now. Come with me to the study. His father's tone was heavy as he said there was something important to talk about. Meanwhile, on the other side, Siwoo, who had just been through a big battle, woke up from his exhaustion. Young, are you okay? Are you feeling any better? Still half dazed, Siwoo even asked why he was here. Song-hyun felt even more awkward. Young, you're really going to deny everything like this? What just happened? How could you forget it so fast? Siwoo instantly grew shy, his face flushing hot red. Okay. Stop talking, I know everything. He noticed that Siwoo's knee was injured. This bandage was most likely put on him by Ju-won. Song-hyun also remembered that when he was little, whenever he got hurt, it was always Siwoo who took care of it. Back then, Siwoo had always looked after him with great care. He had always thought that one day, he would be able to help Siwoo in return. Now that he was grown, he could finally support Siwoo for once. If you get hurt again in the future, I'll be the one to take care of you. Hearing this, Siwoo's smile suddenly lit up, his whole face filled with happiness. The next day, Song-hyun and Siwoo worked in the orchard as usual. Suddenly, the distant rumble of a vehicle sounded. Ju-won showed up uninvited, carrying some iced coffee. He put on a casual act. It was too boring at home, so I came over to take a look. After the coffee was handed out cup by cup, Auntie said calmly, I only drink iced Americano. This line was something Ju-won had already anticipated. He immediately handed over the specially prepared iced Americano, smiling to flatter Auntie. Kids, Ju-won bought coffee. Come and have some. The two who came over when they heard the voice both froze when they saw Ju-won. Ju-won told Siwoo directly, I came here especially to see you. He first handed over the iced latte that Song-hyun loves the most. But when it was time to hand it to Siwoo, Ju-won deliberately teased him and put the coffee on top of his head. He even looked smug, as if waiting for Siwoo to explode. Then he suddenly put his arm around Siwoo and, right in front of Song-hyun, said, Auntie, I'll borrow Siwoo for a bit first. Okay? After Auntie nodded her consent, Ju-won yanked Siwoo away to the farther edge of the woods. The next second, he ordered directly, Take out your phone. What do you want my phone for? Just as Siwoo handed over the coffee, Ju-won conveniently snatched his phone. He immediately dialed his own number. The screen showed everything was normal. The call could go through and be received. Ju-won's temper flared instantly. The phone wasn't broken at all. Why the hell didn't you answer my calls? Siwoo could only explain. I went to bed too early and didn't hear it. Then after you woke up, why didn't you call back? Siwoo had no choice but to apologize first, then promise. It will never happen again. But Ju-won still wouldn't let him off the hook and kept teasing him until he was out of breath. At the same time, he clearly said, There's something very important I need to tell you. But it's not convenient to say it here. I want you to come to my room after your tutoring tomorrow, and we'll take our time talking. He kept stressing over and over, This is really important. You have to listen. Don't even think about sneaking away. And you're not allowed to ignore my calls anymore either. Only after that did the two of them return to the rest area in the orchard. Song Hyeon took the initiative to strike up a conversation with Ju-won. Ju-won said that coming to the orchard, he couldn't really be much help, but at least he could bring them something to drink, which still counted as helping. Song Hyeon stayed silent for a while before finally speaking with difficulty. He said he hoped that from now on, Ju-won wouldn't keep teasing Seo Hyung all the time, and that he shouldn't keep letting Seo Hyung get their feelings mixed up. Back when everyone was younger, they could still treat it as a joke. But now that they've all grown up, he hoped Ju-won wouldn't keep messing with Seo Hyung anymore. Ju-won looked utterly disdainful and said he never had any intention of teasing him in the first place. He shot back at Song Hyeon. Why do all of you think what I do looks like I'm just joking around? Can you tell me why, exactly? Looking troubled, Song Hyeon didn't answer. He only said that Ju-won should seriously reflect on himself. He added, "Don't let Seo Hyung get his feelings mixed up. I really mean that, and I hope you think it through carefully. I'm being sincere too, but if all of you think I'm just joking, then I'll show you my sincerity through my actions. Are you satisfied with this kind of answer, little brother Song Hyeon? I mustered up my courage to confess to you, but you ignored me, and you kept bullying that boy every single day. All you ever did was make fun of him and tease him. Ha, so this is what you call liking someone? Only after you lose him do you suddenly want to win him back. This time, that old 6 Ju-won totally brought it on himself. That day, as usual, Seo continued his part-time job of tutoring Ju-ho. But afterward, he demanded that Ju-ho write a pledge of no physical contact. He also told Ju-ho to engage in self-reflection at any time from now on. Otherwise, next time it wouldn't just be as simple as getting a couple of bumps on the head. He also stressed, during vacation, don't even think about fooling around everywhere. You have to be a good student and patch up all the gaps in time. After that, Seo left Ju-ho's room. He remembered that Ju-won had said he had something to tell him, although every time he went over, it felt like a lamb entering a tiger's den. If he didn't go, it felt like he'd be doomed. But this time, since he had already agreed, with his heart in a panic, Seo still raised his hand and knocked on Ju-won's bedroom door. He walked over to the bed, sat down, and asked directly, "What exactly do you want to say? Last time when we went shopping and had coffee together, after we finished eating the rice dumplings in the car, the thing I wanted to tell you, aren't you the least bit curious?" Only then did Seo remember that Ju-won had indeed been very serious that time. But afterward, he stuck to Ju-won every single day and somehow ended up forgetting all about it. As expected, you really don't remember a thing. I only asked you out shopping on a date because I wanted to eat zongzi with you. In the end, you wouldn't pick up my calls or reply to my messages afterward. Do you know how awful I felt? Seeing him like this, Seo immediately promised that he would never ignore his calls again. Stop dawdling. If you've got something to say, just say it. Then will you go out with me? I like you. Be in a relationship with me. Seo froze on the spot, surprise mixed with panic. This is what you wanted to say last time? Don't joke around. It's really not fun. A joke stops being funny if it goes on too long. And don't try to fool my feelings again. Ju-won reached out and took Seo's hand. I'm not joking this time. I'm serious. Hearing this, Seo felt a sweetness in his heart, but also grew even more uneasy. The next second, Seo immediately shook off his hand, saying he would never believe that kind of talk again. You always open your mouth just to tease me. How do you expect me to trust you? Ju-won explained desperately, saying that he acted that way because he liked him too much. That's why I ended up sleeping with you. But Seo didn't buy it at all. He was just about to bring up Ju-won's attitude toward him during the school trip when he suddenly felt uncomfortable all over and forcibly swallowed the words back down. He grabbed his school bag and was about to leave. Even though Ju-won, after bringing up the school trip, had noticed that Seo was deliberately avoiding him, he still wanted to know why Seo had acted that way back then. But what Seo thought was, even if Ju-won cherishes him now, he doesn't want to dig up those old memories that would only make him feel miserable again. Anyway, to someone who doesn't remember, saying anything more is meaningless, so he simply shook off Ju-won and left. Only Ju-won, who couldn't sort out his feelings, was left standing blankly in the room. Early the next morning, Seo jolted awake from a dream. He had dreamed his way back to those days in middle school. Back then, Ju-won had always loved to tease him. As soon as he heard that Ju-won was also going on the school trip, his heartbeat instantly went out of rhythm, and he secretly started planning. He was going to confess to Ju-won. But then he heard from his sister that Ju-won might be moving away. The moment he thought they might never be able to be together again, his whole mood sank. Finally, the day of the school trip arrived. On the way there, he and Ju-won sat together the whole time. He saw the obvious dark circles under Ju-won's eyes. He offered his shoulder to Ju-won, letting him lean on it to rest. After they arrived at their destination, Ju-won arranged with him they would meet on the mountain. The whole way, he was drafting his speech in his head, preparing what he wanted to say to Ju-won. But when he found Ju-won sitting alone by a small stream, his heart inexplicably tightened. He was both nervous and afraid, torn over whether to voice his feelings. Siyu moved step by step, slowly approaching Ju-won. "Oh, Ju-won, there's something I want to tell you. It's a bit embarrassing, but I still want to muster up the courage to tell you. I like you. I've liked you for a long time. Kinda sudden, right? It's okay if you turn me down. We can also take it slow from now on, getting along and getting to know each other bit by bit." But before he could finish what he wanted to say, Ju-won, however, showed an expression of "that's disgusting." Siyu looked at the way Ju-won's expression was. His legs were shaking, and he just wanted to run away immediately. He hid in the woods, feeling so wronged he was about to break down, crying non-stop. When the trip ended and everyone was heading back, the teacher said that Ju-won had something urgent and left first. This instantly made Siyu feel guilty. He had always thought it was his fault. He even ended up with a shadow in his heart that could never be erased. When he woke up from the dream, the fact that he hadn't dreamed about this for a long time actually made Siyu feel even worse. And right at that moment, Ju-won called again. Siyu, whose heart was still in complete chaos, didn't want to pick up at all and directly declined the call. And even in front of his mom, he still wouldn't answer Ju-won's calls. He only sent a text, "I'll contact you when I've sorted myself out." What Ju-won still couldn't let go of in his heart was what Siyu refused to say out loud, that incident from the school trip. So he decided he couldn't just keep waiting. He then went straight to Siyu's house. But just his luck, Lee Song-hyun told him, "Siyu went out." "Ju-won, you're not seriously saying you didn't know, right?" Ju-won was made a bit embarrassed by this retort. After the two of them stayed silent for a long time, since Siyu wasn't here now, Lee Song-hyun, "It's perfect that you came out. I have something I want to talk to you about alone." Clearly, he had the chance to clear up the misunderstanding from before, but Ju-won insisted on backing himself into a corner. The result made the already battered and bruised Siyu break down in tears once again. The relationship between the two of them remained frozen, getting more rigid the longer it dragged on. That day, Ju-won and Song-hyun brought up the previous school trip. He also understood that this was definitely related to Siyu Hyung, because after the school trip, Siyu suddenly disappeared. But at that time, he hadn't gone along, so he could only say, "I'm not sure what exactly happened." But Song-hyun suddenly remembered that Siyu had told him before that in the year of the school trip, Ju-won had once rejected him. Yet, because of his own feelings for Siyu, he had deliberately changed the subject and hadn't told Ju-won about it. Siyu's distancing himself from Ju-won might really have something to do with that rejection. He only glossed over it, saying that if he remembered anything, he would tell him right away. The next day, Siyu and his mother hurriedly went out. Today, they were rushing to attend Song-hyun's nephew's first birthday party. At that moment, Song-hyun had already arrived early and was waiting for them at the intersection. But as soon as Siyu saw how Song-hyun was dressed, Siyu, who had never seen him like this before, was instantly stunned. He hadn't expected the puppy younger brother to have such handsome clothes. "Ah, what is it? Is it weird?" "Yes, weird. Weirdly cute. And it suits you especially well." Being praised made Song-hyun light up entirely, overjoyed. Even Siyu felt his face grow hot from that damn charm of his and almost dodged his gaze. After the two families took commemorative photos, they got in the cars and set off. Before long, they arrived at the banquet venue. His younger brother Soo-hyun, who was studying in Seoul, came to greet them enthusiastically. When he saw Siyu, whom he hadn't seen for years, he first exchanged some warm pleasantries. After that, Ju-won's family also arrived right on time. Soo-hyun then gave Ju-won, who had once been his teacher, a warm hug. But when Siyu let his gaze fall on Ju-won, Ju-won didn't respond at all. He just urged everyone to go in and sit down first. This made Siyu, who was in the middle of a quarrel with him, suddenly go blank in the head. At the banquet, the parents sat at one table, chatting about family matters big and small. Friends of the same generation as Song-hyun sat at another table, casually talking about the old days. But Siyu's gaze stayed glued to Ju-won the whole time. In his heart he was thinking, he clearly said he would treat me sincerely, yet now he's acting like nothing ever happened. Suddenly, the younger brother Soo-hyun spoke up and asked if Ju-won's health was fine now. Ju-won's expression froze, and he awkwardly said that everything was fine now. But it wasn't just his younger sister who looked puzzled. Even Siyu had absolutely no idea what they were talking about. He wanted to hear Suhayan continue, but Ju-won slammed his water cup heavily down on the table, just in time to force back the words Suhayan was about to say about his health having had problems before. The atmosphere at the table instantly dropped to freezing point. In Siyu's mind, only one thing was turning over and over. When exactly was that time Songhayan just mentioned? When he said Ju-won was sick, Songhayan could tell at a glance. Siyu really cared a lot about this. He simply went with the flow and muddied the waters a bit more. Siyu Hyung is pretty curious too, right? So you're not planning to tell us? The younger siblings at the same table were uneasy, but they were already in full gossip-watching mode. But then they were interrupted again by Ju-won's cold voice. Lee Songhayan, can you stop bringing up exactly the one thing you shouldn't? Not long after, Suhayan came over holding the birthday star. What's wrong? Why does everyone look so grim? As soon as he sat down, his younger sister took the little nephew from him, heart aching terribly. Suhayan sighed that it was really not easy for everyone to be able to gather together this time. He even specially asked Siyu how he had been doing lately, but Siyu's attention was still firmly locked on Ju-won. After the banquet ended, Suhayan said he had already booked hotel rooms for everyone. A warmth rose in Siyu's heart, and he couldn't help nodding in approval at this arrangement. But Ju-won suddenly pulled him close. Siyu and I will go back first. We still have to go to school tomorrow. As soon as the words fell, Songhayan immediately said he wanted to go with them too, but his dad yanked him back on the spot and forcibly made him stay. Ju-won led Siyu out, his voice tight. Let's go back. We need to have a proper talk. Left with no choice but to stay the night, Songhayan's face was nevertheless full of worry. It didn't take long before the two of them were back at Ju-won's place. If there's anything you want to talk about, say it here. Ju-won steered the conversation back again, to the time he was rejected by Siyu. Siyu just said coolly, there's nothing to talk about. Holding down his emotions, Ju-won said, your reason for rejecting me last time wasn't clear. Siyu, why exactly did you turn me down? You have to give me a reason that can convince me. I'm not interested in you. I've never had that kind of feeling for you. Siyu, stop lying. In your heart, you do like me, don't you? Hit with that question in return, Siyu was a little taken aback. He knew very well that this guy, Ju-won, definitely remembered what had happened before. It's precisely because you like me that you think I'll just fall for it so easily. Ju-won, if that's really what you think, then I'll give you this one chance. And after this, don't ever say things like, I like you again. Hearing that, Ju-won, who had still wanted to salvage things, was choked with anger on the spot. But you can actually say something like that since you don't want to hear what I have to say either. Then go upstairs. Tonight we'll do it your way. As soon as they entered the room, Siyu started unbuttoning and taking off his clothes. I usually don't want to, and you just keep clinging on and won't let it go. Or is it that you actually like forcing people to do what they don't want to do? Then today, let's do it. Before he could finish speaking, Ju-won grabbed Siyu's arm. He forcefully threw him onto the bed. Then you'd better be ready to struggle for real. I've never once been respected by you. Don't say these useless things. Let's just get this over with. By the time they finished, Siyu's face was burning red, his eyes full of tears. Why do I always have to be bullied by you? It's obviously always your fault. Realizing all this, Ju-won also burst into tears. Then why didn't you tell me even once? This boy had always really liked the feeling of being a teacher. To take what he learned, fully understand it, and then put it into use. And then to teach it to others was something that felt very fulfilling to him. So Ju-won, who liked this boy, eventually chose to become a teacher. Yet it just had to be now that the two of them were in such an awkward situation. It forcibly dragged Ju-won's thoughts back to high school. Back then, Siyu would always take the initiative to come talk to him. He even made plans to go to Ju-won's house in the evening to review together. After school, the two of them stood by the edge of the playground chatting. Siyu said that in the future he wanted to become a teacher. But then again, thinking that far ahead already was a bit too mature. Ju-won deliberately teased him. Then in the future you'll be the beloved volunteer teacher everyone adores. Siyu's face turned red in an instant, and he hurried to stop him. Cut it out. Stop making fun of me. He could only shift his gaze away, to look at Songhayan playing basketball over there. But Ju-won also genuinely felt that, with Siyu's grades, becoming a teacher in the future would be no problem at all. After that, the three of them went together to Ju-won's house. Auntie had already prepared dinner early, and it was still steaming hot. After they finished eating, they started reviewing their schoolwork. Siyu also casually helped the younger grade Songhayan with math. As soon as Songhayan mentioned that he couldn't go on the school trip with them, he became all gloomy. Siyu then asked Ju-won, "You're still not going this time?" After hearing Ju-won's definite answer, the disappointment on Siu's face was almost impossible to hide. After that, Ju-won suggested that they watch a movie together. Song-hyun said, "Tomorrow's Saturday. I can't. Then let's just have a sleepover here tonight." Siu could only nod and agree to stay the night. After they finished the movie, when Ju-won went to the living room to get some tissues, he happened to hear his mom and dad in their room talking about moving house. In that moment, Ju-won was both shocked and suddenly felt hollow inside. He lay back down on the bed and tossed and turned, unable to fall asleep, because once they moved, they would never be able to hang out like this again. He noticed that Siu, who was sleeping on the floor, wasn't asleep either, so he quietly asked, "In the future, are you really going to be a teacher?" As soon as Siu heard that, he immediately sat up. "You brat, you're still going on about that?" Amid Song-hyun's sweet dreams and snoring, Ju-won asked again, "Then what if I became a teacher?" Siu's throat tightened. He choked up and didn't answer. There wasn't any special reason. He was just purely curious. "If I became a teacher, would you be happy?" After hesitating for a long time, Siu finally answered, "No." "Then why wouldn't you be happy?" Siu's expression was very serious, and in an official-sounding tone he said, "Because that will increase the competition rate." Hearing this, Ju-won could only lie down in disappointment and force himself to sleep. Early the next morning, Ju-won asked his mom, "Where did you put my backpack?" His mom thought for a moment and said, "It should be in the wardrobe in the storage room." But as soon as she heard that Ju-won was packing for the school trip, her whole body froze. "What school trip? Didn't you submit the not participating form?" It was exactly the opposite. Ju-won had submitted the participating application. As soon as his mom heard that, she immediately wanted to call his homeroom teacher, and Ju-won hurried to stop her. He brought up the possibility that their family might be moving soon, and said this might be his last school trip, that he really wanted to go. He also hoped his mom could help keep it a secret from his dad. His mom had no choice and could only nod and agree. So Ju-won stayed up late into the night packing his luggage. When he lay down to sleep, he was still thinking, "Did I really pack everything?" Because of his health, he had even specially packed wet wipes. The next day, with heavy dark circles under his eyes, Ju-won got ready to leave. Seeing him like that, his mom kept reminding him, "If your body feels even a little off, call me immediately." After getting on the tour bus for the trip, Ju-won chose to sit next to Siu. After arriving at their destination, he started rummaging through the things in his bag. Only then did he realize he had forgotten to bring his sun hat, and it wouldn't be convenient to use an umbrella while climbing the mountain either. Staring at the blindingly bright sun outside, Ju-won hesitated for a long time and didn't dare get off the bus. He only hoped that he could somehow get through the rest of this trip. If nothing unexpected happened, then something unexpected was about to happen. As soon as the blinding sunlight beat down on him, Ju-won's body immediately felt wrong. He felt dizzy, his head heavy, and his vision started to blur. The next second, with a thud, Ju-won collapsed and sat limp on the ground. The weather was too hot. He was clearly suffering from a bit of heat stroke. Because he and Siu had set out separately, at this moment Ju-won was still worrying. Siu should be okay, right? He was thinking about Siu when a sound suddenly came from behind him, as if someone were talking. Ju-won's heart tightened. Could it be that the teacher was walking over? He raised a hand to clutch his chest, but his consciousness grew more and more blurred. His stomach churned, and he felt like throwing up. Covering his mouth with his hand, he accidentally blurted out, "This really sucks." He grabbed his phone, wanting to call his mom, but the dizziness was getting worse, and his fingers couldn't tap accurately at all. Ju-won's consciousness cut out, and he fainted on the spot. The misunderstanding of many years was finally resolved. But after that confession he had poured out, how was he supposed to piece back together a shattered relationship? On the day of the school trip, because Ju-won was allergic to sunlight, Siu just had to choose that day to muster his courage and confess, only to hear, "This really sucks." From that single sentence, the misunderstanding between the two of them took root. No sooner had the suffering, allergy-ridden Ju-won finished speaking than he collapsed. By the time he woke up, he was already lying in a hospital bed, completely stunned. His parents, worried to the point of breaking down, even said that Siu hadn't made a single call or asked after him once. So the next day, when Ju-won tried to talk to Siu just acted like, whatever, and flat out ignored him. During the break between classes, Ju-won wanted to clear things up again, but the rejected Siu was still as cold as a stranger. "Don't even think about flirting with me again. "You boring guy." Looking at Siyu putting things so harshly, Ju-won's thoughts were forcibly yanked back to reality. He just couldn't figure out how two people who had been so close could turn into strangers overnight. Only then did Siyu finally say it. That day he had been confessing, but all Ju-won said back to him was, "Really sucks." Ju-won's mood suddenly sank, and he kept apologizing, but at that moment he still hadn't realized the real reason things had gone bad back then. He even wondered if it was because he had stubbornly tagged along on the school trip that Siyu got upset. Suddenly, it was like all the pieces in Ju-won's mind snapped into place. "That day when you confessed to me, and I said, 'I'm really pissed off?' Yes, and you didn't say another word, you just walked away." Thinking of Siyu in that moment, Ju-won's eyes burned, and his tears almost fell. Ju-won hastily explained what had actually happened back then. But even now, all he can remember is up to the part at the little stream on the mountaintop. After that, because he suddenly felt unwell, his memory completely cut out, and he had no idea the person coming up to him was actually Siyu. But Siyu didn't buy it at all and flatly said, "I don't accept that as a reason." Only then did Ju-won bring up his sun allergy. Clearly he had mentioned it to Siyu a long time ago. Yet even so, hearing it now still left Siyu stunned. Ju-won also explained that during the school trip, that "I'm really pissed off" wasn't directed at Siyu. In a low voice he begged Siyu, "Hoping you can forgive who I was back then." While explaining, Ju-won reached out and immediately took Siyu's hand. The very next second, a pillow from Siyu came flying straight at his forehead. "Ju-won, you total bastard. If you hadn't hidden your illness back then, I wouldn't have stupidly misunderstood you for so long either." Siyu cried so hard that it sounded like his voice was going to blow the roof off. Ju-won knew he was wrong and could only pull Siyu into his arms, apologizing over and over, saying he had no choice but to keep it from him. Choking up, he said, "If I could choose again, faced with your confession, I would never say something so chilling." Ju-won moved very gently as he wiped the tears from the corners of Siyu's eyes. He regretted it even more. If he'd known it would turn into such a deep misunderstanding, he never should have tried to be clever and hide it in the first place. "So, can you give me another chance now?" Even though the misunderstanding had been cleared up, Siyu was still frozen there, his eyes unfocused. Even though the misunderstanding had been cleared up, Siyu was still frozen there. Ju-won stated his like very clearly and said he wanted to start dating Siyu all over again. After all, saying something like, "I like you," a third time made his face feel like it was on fire, but Siyu only looked back at him with those clear, sharp eyes. He said bluntly, "I still need to think seriously about this relationship." Afraid of missing his chance again, Ju-won had no intention of letting go this time, saying all this useless stuff is completely pointless. In that second, Siyu's heart jumped right up into his throat. But the moment he thought of the little puppy Song-hyeon in the backyard, he immediately pushed Ju-won away and casually came up with an excuse to say he had to go home. And right at that moment, Song-hyeon called. Cold sweat broke out all over Siyu. Song-hyeon said he was already downstairs at the apartment complex. He wanted to see Siyu and have a private talk. Siyu, holding his phone, only hesitated for 2.5 seconds. In the next second, he decisively left Ju-won where he was, all his thoughts written plainly on his face. Here, the author deliberately leaves an open ending. The ultimate choice of which side to take is handed directly to you. If it were you, who would you choose? Late at night, Siyu had just arrived back at his own apartment complex. At this moment, Ju-won called him again, asking if he had already gotten home. He rambled on and on about a bunch of things with no point. Siyu listened until his ears practically grew calluses. He really couldn't stand it anymore and simply hung up. Although they had only just cleared up the misunderstanding between him and Ju-won today, Siyu only felt this guy was getting more and more clingy. As Siyu replayed the things that had happened today in his mind, Song-hyeon happened to rush over in a taxi. His hands were full of bags, carrying a lot of stuff. There were mugs, cookie gift boxes, macarons, and so on. He said these were all the return gifts his older brother had prepared for the baby's first birthday banquet. Because they left in such a hurry, they hadn't had time to bring them along, so he specially brought them over to hand them to Siyu Hyung. Of course, more importantly, he wanted to see Siyu. Siyu casually replied, "Sure, kid, you've got some moves." But in the next second, Song-hyeon's uncooperative stomach started growling non-stop. Siyu suggested they sit down first and grab a quick bite, so he directly tore open the thank you gifts and started eating on the spot. As a result, Song-hyeon ended up with crumbs all over himself. Siyu hurriedly reached out and helped him roll up his sleeve. In that moment, Song-hyeon also remembered when he was a child, he was always taken care of by Siyu like this. Even now, Siyu still treated him like a child. Since you like taking care of me, then from now on I'll deliberately spill my food everywhere. Tilted head Hyung. Will you keep taking care of me in the future too? Seeing Song Hyeon act spoiled like this, Siyu really couldn't handle it. He was as cute as a little puppy. No matter who it was, they would probably soften, right? Then what if I act like this only to you? Hyung, would you still soften for me? Song Hyeon asked in that soft, sticky tone. Siyu had no choice but to fake a cough and stubbornly say, I'd soften for anyone. But just then, another check-in call from Ju-won came through. Siyu even deliberately glanced at Song Hyeon's expression. As soon as he picked up, the person on the other end started scolding nonstop. Song Hyeon had to quickly explain, I'll send Siyu Hyung home right away. He also reminded Siyu, you have to put the macarons in the fridge. Watching Siyu's back as he walked away, Song Hyeon suddenly called out to stop him. He asked, you and Ju-won made up, right? Siyu was a little surprised. Was it that obvious? That you could see through it? Song Hyeon just guessed that the earlier quarrel between you two might have had something to do with Ju-won's allergy. Of course, he had actually wanted to bring this up just now at the banquet. He thought of how, when Ju-won was little, he bought him popsicles and even told him to keep it a secret. On top of that, deep down he actually didn't want to bring this matter up either. He didn't want Siyu to keep recalling those painful memories. But the reason he did all this was entirely for Siyu. He even said to Siyu directly, I really like you. Siyu suddenly choked up and didn't know how to respond. He never imagined that Song Hyeon could go this far for his sake. What's more, the misunderstanding between him and Ju-won had already been personally cleared up by Song Hyeon. Completely resolved. The current Song Hyeon no longer hides his own emotions. Siyu, from here on, it's up to you to decide. Between me and Ju-won, whose side are you really on?